Hey, everybody, welcome into my latest live broadcast. It is Thursday, the 16th of July, 2020, amidst the coronavirus pandemic, sheltering at home, masks required, Phoenix, Arizona. Las Vegas is in a similar position. They just put a mask on Lady Liberty over at New York, New York, on the Las Vegas Strip that says Vegas safely because they're requiring masks there as well. And that's kind of inspiring, kind of nice. And I hope I can keep you distracted, entertained, since we're sheltering at home and the TV, right? So thanks you guys for joining me. Welcome everybody into the chat room. It's good to see all the familiar faces and a couple of shouts out to some folks, namely Ryan out in Nevada, who's been kind enough to send frequent gifts here. Saw the WD-40 that was sent to me and noticed that WD-40 now makes a contact cleaner. And he said, I'm going to send that to you, Carey. Maybe you can use it. And what's interesting to me is I actually saw this too, and I was tempted to buy it because sometimes when you have a RAM socket that's not connecting properly, it could be a bad RAM socket or it could be a little dirty. Who knows how many motherboards I may have replaced that were perhaps just needing a good cleaning. But being in business and having to support things, it's best to just get it replaced. But I will say that I appreciate this and I'm looking forward to seeing how it works. I have not used any contact cleaner since the 80s. So I appreciate it and good time to maybe revisit that. I'm going to stick it back here, get it out of the shot. Thank you, Ryan, for that thoughtful contribution. And I want to revisit this right here. This case was sent to me by a gentleman named Rick Hubbard. I think he's in, if I'm saying it right, Leicester, England, in the UK, right? England's in the UK, I think we all agree. And it's a Corsair 200R case. These cases are about $70, $75 US. You'll see me use them a lot. They're very, they're an underdog. They're not about being showy. They're about being easy to work on, good airflow, lots of upgradability, lots of options, lots of opportunity. Full-size ATX, micro ATX, mini ITX, all fits in there. Front ports, those are all going away now. It's not about impressing your friends with the paint job. It's about impressing your friends with what's inside. And of course, in business, that's really important. And it's very affordable, feature rich. And I've talked on and on and on about it as though I was getting paid to do it. I wish I was. But that being said, Rick knows how much I enjoy the 200R and how much I recommend it. And not only did he pay for the shipping to send it from England to the United States, inside there's a treat from England that he sent that I absolutely love, and Americans have no idea what they're missing out on. But check out the coolest thing ever. Look at this. It is jam-packed with Walker's brand smoky bacon deliciousness. The British call them crisps. We Americans call them chips. But we can all agree they're amazing. Why are the bags so small? It's so dainty. I need like 6 of these. Anyway, inside, oh, are you married, Rick? It's the simple things in life. The harder these are to get, the better they taste. The only thing that tastes better than Walker's Smoky Bacon Crisps are free Walker's Smoky Bacon Crisps. Thank you, Rick. I got some work to do. I hope these are going to stay cool. It's pretty cool, right? big contribution just came in from Frankie B. Frankie has contributed $100. Wow, Frankie, thank you so much for your continued support. Sterling also contributed $2 and said, let's kick off some contributions. Hey, look, guys, I appreciate that very much. Something interesting today. I was kind of excited when I saw Muscle Man and fellow Michigander, former NFL player and host of America's Got Talent, Terry Crews, building a gaming PC. And then I guess eventually Jay's 2 Cents worked with him and built him a custom gaming computer with a color scheme and platform like the Old Spice colors, because Terry Crews was doing some of the Old Spice commercials. Terry Crews is from, I think, Flint, Michigan, was born, I think, the same year I was born, and suffered through many of the same challenges growing up in Michigan, and I just relate to him a lot. Although we look nothing alike, I got a feeling if he got to know me, he'd see a brother. In any event, there's something about guys with muscles in Hollywood building computers. And so earlier today, Superman, The Witcher, Henry Cavill, posted on Instagram about an 8-minute video of him building a gaming PC all by his own lonesome. And it's very inspiring. He screwed up a little bit, and he went back and corrected it the next day. And it's all on the Instagram video, and it's in the video links in the description if you want to watch that. It's very cool. I mean, look, this guy's got looks, he's got youth, he's got muscles, he's got money. You really got to do my job too, Henry? I'm gonna just go to Hollywood and I'm gonna be an actor, see how you like it. I think it's great. It just goes to show, computers have become so ubiquitous in society. We rely on them so much. And I think in the case of Terry Crews and Henry Cavill, they're gamers. When they asked Henry Cavill how familiar he was with The Witcher in the books, he said he said he was familiar with The Witcher, but not because of the books, because of the game. He spent hours and hours and hours on the game. And then later went and read the books, I guess, to prepare himself for the role. And with the lockdown and everything happening, people are finding something to do with themselves. And so I was delighted to see that. I was really delighted. And I hope it inspires people. I was a little disappointed that it looks like he only spent about $1,500. I think Henry Cavill could have, had a higher budget. But I think it's his first build. And a higher budget build probably would have been more complex if he's never built before. And in that situation, and also if he's just a practical guy who doesn't need more than that, if the game's not going to play any better, he's not going to be a better player, obviously, just because you have a better machine. I'm not a better cook because I have better pots and pans. I'm not a better photographer because I have a better camera. So hats off to Henry Cavill for putting himself out there. As we all know, when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to scrutiny. He didn't make a how-to video. It's just sort of a compilation video of him randomly putting things together and frowning at the directions, which is fantastic, fantastic. So check it out. Not right now. It'll wait. Stick around. We got some cool stuff coming up. Now, yesterday I was trying to evaluate this cooler that's behind me right here, this SE-234-ARGB, and I got involved with the chat room, and I felt as though one of the main things I like so much about YouTube is the interaction. It's that you can talk back. You can't do that. Where else can you do that? In media. If you write even to your local news station, maybe you'll get a response. And yesterday was one of those days where some topics came up, and I really wanted to connect with you guys on a one-to-one level for those who choose to participate. And I really enjoyed it, and I felt like it was very cathartic. So the work did not get done. Today the work is getting done, so if I don't pay as much attention to the chat room, just know I'm trying to find that balance between the interaction and then actually accomplishing some work. For that reason, I've included a link of another independent tech YouTuber. I think he's in England as well. His YouTube channel is called TechLens. And he's already done the unboxing and the testing of this cooler. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know I'm giving him a shout out. But if you want to compare what he's done to what I'm doing, he's testing on an AMD. I'm going to be testing on an Intel. And I think he did a really good job. I think you'll agree. And if you like his content, of course, subscribe to him. And just in case I don't get around to it, you can go over there and watch it. But even if you just want to compare the process, because the installation process is slightly different on AMD than on Intel. And he didn't test it on both platforms, nor am I going to test it on both. So he's done half the work. I think I'll pick up the other half. Let's see where it goes. As I mentioned in yesterday's stream, this is sort of a fun little build I did just for fun. So it's a fun little build. In other words, I don't have to support this. It's not going to a customer, not yet anyway. And it's kind of a little over the top, you know, with the RAM being the Royal RAM and the 970 Evo Plus, one of the high-end solid-state drives you can buy. It's 2 terabyte Intel 9900K. And then, of course, we've got the RTX 2080 Ti steel sealed in the box because I haven't gotten that far on the build because I wanted to do something a little different with the cooler. And I've already evaluated the Dark Rock 2 cooler from Be Quiet. Of course, there's the Noctua cooler. I was looking at a black cooler. We've evaluated the Hyper 212 Black Edition. They're fine. They're fine. But I thought, what about these smaller, lesser known manufacturers? Are they worth evaluating? Should we give them the time of day? And I think we should, but not with a customer's build. I don't want to make a customer a guinea pig. So I'll do it and we'll see how it runs. And if it works well, maybe you'll see more of it in the future. This is from a company called ID Cooling. It's the SE-234-ARGB. That just rolls right off the tongue. I'm sure you'll easily remember that in your Google search. And there are a few other videos, both in Spanish and Russian, for other language speakers, native language speakers that might want to watch those reviews to be a little clearer in your native language. I don't know if they're any good or not, but if you just type in SE-234-ARGB on your YouTube search, you'll see a handful of videos already reviewing this cooler. So I don't know if those people are paid to review it. I don't know how in-depth the reviews are. Take it with a grain of salt. They more than likely do a better job than I do. Who knows? So what I want to do, John Peck just contributed £2. He says, hi, Carey. Hi, John. Thank you. What I want to do is I'm going to clean the old thermal compound off of the CPU, and we're going to prep it so we can install the new cooler. And the cooler should come with thermal compound, and I generally like to use what comes in the box. I was very disappointed with the quality of the thermal paste that came with that other cooler, that round one, the red light. It was thick and dried out, and I think it may have affected the cooling performance, but the cooling performance was so bad, it was more than a thermal paste issue. So if this works well, depending on the quality of the thermal compound that it comes with, I may swap the thermal compound out, but usually you only get maybe a 2 to 3 degree centigrade difference. Centigrade and Celsius, depending how old you are. And I also want to take a moment to acknowledge a viewer. His name is Don Miletus, and Don watches us from Australia, and he's often in the chat room. And Don had to have one of his legs amputated due to cancer. And he went into it with a great attitude, I have to say. He wrote to me, he said the surgery was a success. They're sending him home Friday morning, Australian time, obviously. And sent me a picture of himself in his wheelchair with a thumbs up. And I think that's a wonderful attitude. And I think, you know, first of all, they said they got all the cancer. Right, so that's fantastic. And if you have to trade a leg for your life, I think that's a pretty easy deal to make. It's unfortunate that he has to make the deal at all. However, I'm inspired, and I think he sets a great example. You sometimes have to make great sacrifices in order to achieve great things. And I think hats off to Don. I hope he's healing well. I hope he's home soon. And I'm glad that everything went as well as it can go. He also said he's learning it's very expensive to be an amputee. Now, I know this is true because I've had several clients that are amputees for numerous reasons. And I know all, well, I won't say I know all about it, but I've heard all about it. And it's crazy what prosthetics cost and how much they can hurt to wear. With that being said, if we see Don in the chat room today or tomorrow, be absolutely sure, please, to wish him well. And let's get this thermal compound off of here and start some work. I don't want to repeat yesterday. Not that I regret yesterday. Like I said, I kind of feel like yesterday was necessary, and today work is necessary. I just love that shot. I need to just keep that in my shot at all times. That is 100% Carey right there. Put a can of Coke in front of it. That is the new logo for my channel right there. So what I've got here is some denatured alcohol. You can use rubbing alcohol. I was at Walmart the other day and I saw they had two different kinds of rubbing alcohol. And the difference was the alcohol content. We want to use the highest alcohol content possible. And the reason for that is we're trying to clean the surface of the CPU here, which they call the IHS, or the internal heat spreader. We want to clean it as clean as we can get it, mirror-like finish, to have the most effective heat transfer. Again, we're not going to be talking about massive differences in temperature. In other words, if this is dirty, if I throw other thermal compound on top of this thermal compound, not a good idea, but it's not going to prevent the machine from booting. It's sort of like you can eat junk food and it can keep you alive. You may not have the best health over time, but it's certainly better than eating nothing in most cases. So when you're spending all this money for your parts and you're taking care to assemble it correctly, paying attention to all those details, why would you be lazy on this part? Now, when you're installing your CPU for the very first time, it's already as clean as it's probably ever going to be, and as long as you don't touch the top of it and get the oils from your skin on it or anything, it's going to be transferring the heat as efficiently as possible to the bottom of the heatsink. That's why the bottom of the heatsink has tape on it. It's to keep any dirt, debris, detritus from collecting on the bottom, which would interfere with the efficacy of the thermal transfer. You want some smaller words? Keep it clean, it works better. It's not going to work a world of difference better, but for most of us, I think that if we have the opportunity to take a few extra moments to do it right, even if it results in the exact same cooling properties, there's sort of a peace of mind that comes with that, a satisfaction of a job well done, and we don't have any hesitation or doubt if there is a problem with the computer after we build it. Oh, maybe it's because I took a shortcut. Maybe it's because I was too lazy and didn't change my thermal compound. I mean, that's unlikely, but if you do it right, it doesn't even become an option to consider. That's all I'm saying. So it's just about pride, doing it right, peace of mind. That's it. Now, this thing doesn't have to be absolutely 100% mirror-like finish. We want to get, 90+% of the junk off of there. And the reason we go with a high alcohol content is that we're not leaving any residue behind and the alcohol evaporates. I didn't dry it off. I let the alcohol evaporate. Michael Dane just contributed $10. He goes, here's some money for your water cooler talk with Carey Holtzman. Very good talk. Appreciate that, Michael, but come on, you don't know how to spell my last name by now. I thought you were the man. Michael Dante. See, I feel like I know Michael enough. I can tease him a little. Thank you, Michael. See what you get for being nice. All right, so thermal compound application. I got my, that's good English. I got my nitrile glove, and I'm gonna sit here, put this here. Martin says salty bacon seasoning contains dried milk, lactose, salt, sugar, flavoring, hydrolyzed soya protein, acids, citric acid, malic acid, smoke flavoring colors, paprika extract, sulfate ammonia caramel. Oh, that's just like Grandma used to make. God, that sounds good. I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy some sulfate ammonia caramel. You have no idea. This could be rat poison. I don't care. It tastes delicious. I'm not a rat. What do I care? David Seymour has contributed 10 pounds. Spit out. David Griswold's contributed $10. He says, I got a little raise today at work, so I thought I would share. It's very kind of you, David. Thank you. Thanks to both Davids. I wonder how they get all those. Did you ever think about that? How do they get all those ingredients? How is the ingredients list bigger than the chip? That's technology. All right. You're distracting me. Stop it. I've already unboxed the cooler. Did that a couple videos ago. It was really exciting. If you didn't see it, you missed out. Ooh, it actually looks like decent thermal compound. I mean, it's a nice packaging. Usually, cheap thermal compound comes in cheap packaging. Usually. So this is a promising start. Judging books by covers. But sometimes there's some pretty nice books with some really nice covers. Just saying. That's all that's in there. Oh, we have a metal backplate, not plastic like the other cooler. We have the, yeah, this is, okay, so what this is for, you don't normally get this with a cooler. This is a little remote button, you know, obviously, what's a remote without button? And what you do is you plug it into your power supply, a standard SATA power cable, and then this other end here plugs into, it plugs in somewhere. I don't think we need it. If your motherboard doesn't have built-in ARGB headers on the board, and you want to change the color or the pattern of lights, how would you do it? You'd use that remote. This motherboard, this Gigabyte Z390M gaming board, is ARGB with the ARGB header, and therefore the motherboard should control this cooler, making that remote completely unnecessary. When you add that remote, you're adding more cabling, it's looking ugly, and what am I going to do? Open the cover and push the button when I want to change the colors? Or do I just leave the cables hanging outside the edge of the case panel? It's just, I mean, whatever. We've got 4 of these, what I call the fan hangers, even though we've only got 1 fan. That's if you want to add another fan later, you can put it in a push-pull configuration with a fan on each side of the cooler in case you want a little boost in your cooling. Now, I've mentioned this before, and I'll continue to talk about it as long as I have to. As long as your CPU is not overheating, you don't have a cooling problem. Adding more fans and cooling it to make it cooler isn't making your CPU any faster or benefiting you in any way, shape, or form. But on the other hand, if you just like the way two fans look, or you've got money burning a hole in your pocket, or you like the added power consumption and noise adding another fan makes, or you've got some sort of weird twisted disease that you like to see low cooling numbers despite the fact it has no impact on reality, it is an option for you to explore. It's not wrong, it's just unnecessary and impractical. And I do like to keep things practical. I like to talk about what actually matters. And in theory, this cooler should be able to cool the 9900K with the single fan no differently than the side cooler, the Be Quiet cooler, or the Noctua cooler. In all of those coolers I've named, you can add a secondary fan optionally. And in all of those coolers I named, that would be completely unnecessary unless you are running the CPU beyond the specified voltage requirement settings or recommended settings by the manufacturer, running it out of spec in order to drive more power from it. In which case, don't ask me for help. I don't have time for that nonsense, because chances are you're way slower than even a Core i3, and there you are trying to eke out more power. What's that going to do for you? So for some people in business, doing certain kinds of work, there can be a productivity enhancement, but at what cost? When I refer to what cost, I mean the cost of cooling, the cost of configuring, the cost of reliability, and then determining where it's reliable, and ultimately, what sort of a productivity boost are we talking about? Is it worth the investment of time and money and experimentation and potentially damaging your components? Some people think so. I think it's impractical. Wait 6 months, there'll be a faster CPU that will not require specialized cooling. And you can run it at stock faster than your overclock. So at the very best, you have temporary gains. And if you enjoy the challenge, enjoy it. Don't drag me into it, please. All right. We've got a metal, as I mentioned, the metal backplate. Inside of this bag, we've got a couple of brackets. And I'm going to make a guess here. I don't know. I've not installed this before. I'm not looking at the directions yet. But I'm going to make a guess that much like other coolers you've seen me install, you'll see there's a set of brackets that look like parentheses. Now these are traditionally, not always, but typically used for AMD socket motherboards. And these straight brackets are traditionally used on Intel socketed motherboards. Of course, you need to refer to the documentation. We're going to find out in the video, but I'm going to start with these straight ones because that's what I think we need. You will never use both. You use one or the other. This is what happens when a manufacturer says, hey, this part will work with all these different computers. They're going to give you a bunch of parts you don't need in order to make sure that you have the parts you do need for whatever type of build you have. And in that way, you don't have to be real specific over which cooler you buy, other than the fact that it can handle cooling whatever CPU you've got, whatever your needs are. You don't have to worry about buying the right socketed cooler. Now, on the one hand, that would make life a lot easier because they would only include the parts you need. But on the other hand, it would make life more complicated because the manufacturer would have to basically box the same CPU with different branding and labeling and probably different pricing to accommodate, socket AM4 versus socket 1151 versus socket 2011. So what they do is they go, look, we're just going to cover all that. Here's all the parts, and just put aside what you don't need. I recommend you don't throw away any extra parts because you might change platforms in the future. You don't know that today, but you might switch platform. I mean, sooner or later, you're going to upgrade to something. You probably will upgrade your cooler, but maybe you won't. Maybe you'll give the cooler to a friend, and that friend has a completely different system. Give them the spare parts. Otherwise, your friend probably can't use the cooler, and the cost of buying the spare parts probably exceeds or matches the cost of buying the entire cooler. Agree with me? Good. Can you explain it to me? Because I'm confused. In this bag, we've got some standoffs. They look like that. And that one can go over there. And in this bag, we have, there's some screws. Forget what we call these things. There's the screws, the caps, and it's not a cap, I don't know. And then these thumb screws at the end. We'll look in the directions and see while they're phrasing the part names. Even different manufacturers refer to them with different names, so we'll look and see, and hopefully I won't break a brain cell trying to interpret the directions. They might be good. Those last directions on that last cooler were pretty bad, though. Never to press twice flexible. Remember that. Where are my directions? Are there directions? Do you just hold the box to your head and learn through osmosis? How do I not have directions? So one of the problems when I unbox is if I don't keep everything together, you can see how crazy it is in here, right? That's why I'm keeping everything together with each system. You'll see boxes on top to identify what goes with what, or I'll never remember. I don't know. I have to laugh because, what choice do I have? Was there documentation? I don't remember. Well, I guess we're going to be figuring this out on our own. The good thing is that we're not reinventing the wheel here. A cooler pretty much installs like any other cooler. And if in doubt, pull up somebody else's YouTube video and watch how they do it. No shame. All right. I can tell you right now where this piece goes. I like that there are, remember on the other, which cooler was it? I think it was was it the Dark Rock that we had to fit the piece? No, it wasn't Dark Rock. Who was it? It might have been the Dark. Anyway, sometimes you have to put these in yourself. These little, I'm not good with the words today. Words sometimes are hard. But you'll see there's screws going through, I guess it was the Dark Rock, and you had to put the screws in yourself. Well, technically they're not screws because they don't have heads on them. They've got another word. And I'm unscripted, and I've got 29 years of experience in a brain just filled to maximum capacity with computer geek jargon. So I really don't care what they're called, honestly. If you're here looking to get the information to pass a test, you're in the wrong place. But if you're here learning how to install this cooler, just follow along. You don't have to know what this stuff's called. But this is the back plate. Huh? Look at that. Impressed, right? I know that. And you'll notice that the back plate has a couple of holes in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to align. You'll see the back plate says LGA, there it is, LGA 115X. That tells you that's for an Intel socket 115, and the X is any other number, because Intel has a socket 1150, 51, 55, 56. So any of those, just if it starts with 115, this is your cooler. This is a socket 1151. You'll see there's two screws right back here on the back of the CPU socket that's built onto the motherboard. And I suppose we could probably put this in this way or this way, but my OCD likes the lettering facing up. And it should just align with the holes, and you don't have to do anything special. Just push it in. Am I going too fast? Of course I'm not going too fast. Bear with me. Now, in the bags, these standoffs are probably, I'm going to guess, these are used on socket 2011 X series Intel CPUs, which we're not building today. In fact, you will very rarely see me build those or the equivalent AMD Threadripper series. They're too finicky. They're divas, and they're expensive, and they're very hard to make happy. And I'm in business to make a profit, not to promote a particular brand out of loyalty. If a brand is starting to cost me money and threatening the health of or sustainability of my business, I can't afford. I'm a small operation. I'm not a big company that can take big losses and shrug it off. I'm gonna be hurting. So it doesn't help your customer retention when customers are calling with problems. So I'd rather let other people do that work. I'll stick to things that are a little more stable, things that I know better. Let's face it. If I worked on Threadrippers all the time, I'm sure I'd be better at it, but I just don't. It's not my wheelhouse. I can figure it out. I'd rather not. So they're also very expensive, so it's not like I'm missing a lot of opportunity, right? Anthony Remus over at Remus Computing Solutions builds those. I'll refer you over to him. He does great work. Highly recommended. All right. Now we've got a couple of, what I'm doing here is I'm kind of organizing what was in this bag. So we have these, we have the standoffs. The reason I was looking for the direction is so I could pick up the terminology of what the manufacturer is calling all this stuff. But I'm just going to show you the part. It really doesn't matter if you know what it means. You guys ever had a VCR? Anybody here had a VCR? No? Video cassette recorder, a VCR? It was probably VHS. Very few people know what VHS stands for. That doesn't mean they don't know what it is, how it works, and how to use it, nor are they intimidated by it, nor have most people really thought about it. What does VHS stand for? Now, of course, you can Google that and pull it up. That's fine. But off the top of your head, most people don't know. And who cares? What's it got to do with knowing what it is, how to use it, what it does? Nothing. I think it's just there to impress people. Look what I know. What I'm going to assume is that these little standoffs go over these screws. And I'm just going to guess based on experience. I don't know. But I think, following other cooler installs I've done, and I could be wrong, and I could go to ID Cooling's website and I could pull up the PDF file of the instructions. However, life does not come with an instruction manual. And when I first started out in computers, there was no internet. And you either had to interpret the instructions that were given, which were often written in engineering ease, or you sort of had to figure it out like a puzzle. And I enjoy the puzzle nature of figuring it out, even if some people watching are wanting to strangle the screen because it's obvious to them or they've done it before. But it's no different than watching somebody else play a video game. You might know how to get past a certain level, and watching somebody else play, struggling to get through that level, you might be sort of itching at, just do that. It's so easy. But not everybody is you, and not everybody gets things the way you get things. And please understand that when we're talking about educating people, we're talking about demonstrating how processes are done, I try to intentionally go out of my way to dumb things down. I think a lot of the tech channels are really designed for technical people. And I do try to avoid saying things like, oh, it's a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD running TLC on a PCIe Gen 3x4. Because I will tell you what happens to 90% of the people you say that to. Nothing. It registers nothing. I might as well walk right up to Mr. Technical, and you might be Mr. Technical, and I might just go, gerberly burgly, barker, 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 barker. Because that's what they heard. So I'm trying to do things a little different, and I'm trying to put things in a non-technical, plain English way, because I'm not training you how to be a technician. What I'm trying to do is show you how easy this stuff is. And I'm trying to show that even with all the years of experience I have, the technology and the hardware is always evolving and changing. Different manufacturers have to do things different ways, or they sue each other or require royalties to each other, such as mounting mechanisms on coolers or all-in-one cooler pump design. So with that in mind, they're forced to either sacrifice some of their profit to adopt a familiar installation method, or they have to engineer their own installation method. But that installation method has to meet the engineering requirements of the chip manufacturer, meaning it has to apply a range of pressure onto the CPU. It can't be less than that, and it can't be more than that. And it's more complex than it may seem to the untrained eye, but you don't have to think about any of that. It's already been done for you. So unless you want to design coolers for a living, go to school, take up thermodynamics and engineering, and go do that. But for the rest of us that just want to put a cooler in our own computer and not pay some techie, nerdy guy who speaks gobbledygook an overpriced amount and hope they did it right, says he knows what he's doing. I'm going to show you how you can be self-reliant, do it yourself, and have not only the financial savings, the freedom of choice, but also afford you the opportunity to have an experience that will empower you. Because if you do it and you succeed, and you probably will, you want to do something else. You'll become braver, you'll have more self-confidence, and you won't be so intimidated. That's my goal. I don't know how well I'm doing, but that's what I'm aiming for here. All right, so this is the last one, and we're going to put that on there. And so these kind of push on, and there's a little resistance, which is good, because what that's going to do, it's going to hold that back plate in. On other cooler installs, you've seen me have to hold this in with one hand while trying to reach around the case to put the screws on. And so typically the way this works is you can use sort of a, because I've done so many detailed close-up shots of the installation of a Scythe Mugen 5, I think you're going to see a lot of familiarity, slightly different, but the same concept, the same end result, same goal, just in a slightly different installation process, but also kind of familiar. What we're going to do, with those pieces installed, I'm going to put the straight brackets on, and I'm totally winging this. I have no idea. I might end up taking this back apart. I don't know. But I think these screws go through these brackets. If the screw won't fit in the hole, I know I'm off to a wrong start. Am I being yelled at in the chat room? No, don't do it. Why is that? Okay, we don't use those screws because I've looked a little closer, and of course the screw that's built into the motherboard bracket is extending through the standoff we just installed. Therefore, did you believe me when I told you I'd never done this and I'm kind of winging it? Because if you didn't believe me before, you should believe me now. We don't use these screws at all on this. This is probably for AMD, so we're just going to put that out. Forget I did that. That didn't happen. By the way, when you're a field technician and you have to go out to a client's place, you're likely going to encounter hardware you've never seen before. Client doesn't know that. The client's paying you to fix it. Figure it out. So a little dose of reality here. We should be able to just place this right on top of the screws that are extending through the standoffs. And let's get a tighter shot. See if you can see this a little better. Oh, come on. God, my cameraman sucks. All right. You see how the screws that come out from that back plate are going through the holes closest. If you look at the bracket, you see there's two positions. We want to go to the position closest to this edge that faces the CPU. And I'm going to guess that these brackets go on the same direction as the CPU installation lever, just like the scythe coolers go on, but I could be wrong, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to check that. So first thing I'm going to do, only because I'm stubborn, I could check it right now, but I feel very confident. So what could go wrong? I put those brackets in place like so. That's very similar to the scythe Mugen 5 install you've seen me do. I'm going to take a look at this cooler right now. So I've got the cooler here, and we know we don't want the cooler to blow air up or down. And we can see the screws to mount the cooler. If we had the cooler up and down, then the screws would go up and down. So we could put these brackets on the other way if we wanted to do that, but why would you want to do that? Because that would be incorrect. So to verify, I mean, I've already verified it, but just to visually verify it, I can sort of dry fit this in place. Yeah, that's what we want. And I want you to take note, again, I want you to notice the similarities between this install and other tower cooler air coolers. Look at this bracket. Go on, look at it. Have you looked at it? Do you think it's centered? Do you think that bracket is centered? Well, then you're wrong. I don't know what you said, but you're still wrong. Again, like the scythe Mugen 5, if you look very closely, you'll see that this side right here, the screw is right up against the edge of the cooler. We can get a screwdriver straight right up against the radiator here and tighten that down. But if you look at the other side, there's a gap. You see this gap? Well, that's where your fan is going to go, your main fan. Like I said, you can add an optional secondary fan if you want to, but there's a gap right there. And we want the fan to blow air through the radiator, and we want all the air to move in the same direction. We want our airflow to come in from the front, push through the middle, and then out the back. So if we want the fan to blow air this way, the cooler has to go in with this space closest to your RAM. I really should have read the directions because this is way too complicated to figure out on my own. Now, you should do this with the computer lying flat. The only reason this computer is upright is so you can watch me. Now, we have to secure these brackets in place. I didn't secure them in place until I first verified that they're on vertically. Some coolers may require them horizontally. This is very, very similar to Scythe's mounting technique, slightly different, obviously. Michael Mancini is correct. He says, now the thumb screws go on the brackets. Teacher's pet, did you bring me an apple? Take it away. I don't like apples. Especially not Macintosh apples. I'm going to just crack myself up over here. I don't care if you're laughing. God, that's just torture to look at that. Is that bag open? No. Probably ruined. All I have is that many left. All right. Kind of depressed. So we've got these thumb screws, for lack of a better word. And we're going to screw the thumb screw onto the top. Do I really need to tell you where it's going to? I mean, seriously, where else are you going to put it? Oh, don't put it there. That's disgusting. What's wrong with you? That's the second time this week. I'm just going to get them all started here because this is a tight space. If your RAM is already installed, it's going to get in the way. But I can work around it with a screwdriver. If the RAM wasn't installed, I could tighten these by hand. But even tightening them by hand really isn't sufficient, not advisable. You really want to finish them off with a hand powered screwdriver, not an electric screwdriver. You need to use a normal manual screwdriver. It bothers me when they call an electric driver a cordless driver. I mean, technically this is a cordless driver too, isn't it? All I need to do, and in no specific order, I just need to tighten this, bring these down until they're, we don't want to over tighten. We don't want them loose. We don't want to be able to loosen them with our fingers. We want it tighter than that. Just bring it down until you get quite a bit of resistance, and that'll be good enough. Computers are actually, these days, quite forgiving. You can screw up a computer build 18 different ways and it'll still boot. Doesn't mean you did it right, and it doesn't mean it'll run optimally, but you'd be surprised how much tolerance there is for getting things wrong. It'll still work. Thank God. All right, so I'm just going to go back around. I've put these on upside down. I just realized I put these on upside down. Did anybody in the chat room say that I put these on upside down? Is anybody? Hold on. Anybody? I haven't been paying attention. I told you I wasn't going to be interacting as much. Ford stands for fix or repair daily. It does not. Ford stands for first on race day. You know what Chevrolet stands for? Can hear every valve rattle on long extended trips. That I know. What these little parts are called, I have no idea. I'm going to show you what I realized just now. Remember, I'm not using any documentation. I've never done this before. And the installation method used on the other gentleman's video was all AMD. It doesn't really follow what we're doing here. So, look, this is, Rick Lake says, yeah, a few people noticed. Well, for the rest of you and me, one side of this bracket, here's what I realized. So in the Mugen 5, when we put these brackets on, the Mugen 5 has screws that go through that are attached to the heatsink, and we screw them down into holes into these brackets. Remember, if a manufacturer copies another manufacturer's installation method, they may have to pay for royalties. So you've got to come up with your own or pay the royalties. So what they changed is they reversed it. What they did is they put the screw on the bracket, see? And then instead of screws on this mounting mechanism, they've got holes, and we're going to tighten down basically what is like a thumb screw that's spring loaded, and it's going to go over that screw. So look, as far as mistakes go, no big deal. And this is how we learn. So don't be afraid of making mistakes in front of a few people. 976 people? Yeah, I don't care. You're not perfect either. I don't care what your mother said. All right, we're going to try this one more time. It's all good. I mean, look, if you can't have a little bit of fun and take things lightly, well, then I don't want to be you. Are we getting that? Kind of? Again, no big deal. Just flip it around the other way. Oh no, end of the world. I make the mistakes live on video, so you don't have to. You're welcome. Want to trade? All right, that feels pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right. What have I missed in the chat room? I feel like I'm just sitting here talking to myself. Paul O'Brien's contributed €2. He says, here's for a doggy snack. Why would I eat a doggy? Oh, it's for the dogs. Thank you. George Z's contributed $5. He says, hey, Carey, I like all the memory chips in the other case. Yeah, those chips are going to bring good memories. Clever. I like that. Chris Kingan has contributed $5. He goes, here's the shipping fee to mail me some of those crisps. Do you know how hard these are to get in the United States? You got to come over here and get it yourself. There's an open bag. You want this one? This bag's been open for about 3 weeks. Why would you think I would be so kind and generous? I mean, this is all I have. This is like a week's worth, maybe. Marty Yoel has contributed $10. He says, hello, welcome in, Marty. Good to see you. Paul O'Brien's contributed €2. He says, have a drink on me. He then followed up with another €5 contribution. He says, here's a little something for you because you're a cool dude. I've been telling people that, and they don't believe me. And Paul O'Brien again with another €5. He says, thanks for all you do for the community, sharing your knowledge. Hey, Paul, thank you again for all of your support. Zdravko Frančević has contributed 25 HRK. I can never remember what that is. HRK is Croatian. That's why, because I can't think of what starts with H, but it's a Croatian kuna. Thank you, as always, to Zdravko. Paul O'Brien, once more, with a €2 contribution. He says, just because you have a great sense of humor. You see, everybody, I told you I had a great sense of humor. Glenn's Music has contributed to Australian dollars. He says, I would love to find those chips in... I would find those chips in salting. That was kind of a stretch, but I'll take it. Thank you guys for the contribution. And Wayne Lawrence says he's getting hungry looking at all those chips. Get your own. William Lynn says, you feel like a comedian to me. Do you feel many comedians? That's kind of creepy. And does it pay well? $20 is $20. John Panarelli says, I'm going to send you a new, never used Seagate Barracuda hard disk drive for one of your charity builds. Please don't. Please don't. I no longer use mechanical hard drives. I don't want them. I'm up to my neck. Not that I'm that tall. I'm up to my neck in mechanical drives. I only use solid state drives. I'm sure you can find another charitable cause that would gladly accept it. And I appreciate that you're thinking of me. It's kind of, so you sort of run the fence when viewers want to contribute something. They may contribute something they think would be useful that I might already have and I don't use. So because they don't see me use it, they don't know I already have it, and then they send me another one. What's more useful to me, obviously, is ways that I can get things on the Amazon wish list, not my production wish list, gift cards, anything that I can use to get the things I need, or that you ask me if there's something I feel terrible. It just feels awful when somebody goes through the thoughtful process and trouble of shipping something to me, and I'm like, well, what do I do with this? You know, I'm going to say thank you, but then I'm kind of stuck with this thing. So it would be best if you check in with me before you send anything, just to ensure that that there's not a better use of your time and money where the part. It sounds terrible. I don't know what to do. What do I do? Just take it and say thank you and then throw it in the recycle bin? I don't want to do that either. That seems disrespectful. So, but I appreciate your thoughtfulness regardless. But no hard disk drives. No, please don't do it. Rick Lake says, I got a bunch of mechanical drives I can't get rid of. No one around here wants them, at least in my county in Minnesota. Oh, I see a good friend there. Stephen Bernstein's joining us. Welcome in, Stephen. Just saw you. Gabriel Granados, Aurora's team, Jeffrey, and Pete Stern says hello. Hey. Matt Power. Says, Carey's only 4'11", not with my shoes on. Ryan Dolan says, you have a sub button on Twitch. Yeah, because I have a Twitch channel you can subscribe to. I very rarely use it, and it's always going to be replays of YouTube videos when I do use it, because I don't get enough viewers on Twitch. I've never been paid a dime, and I imagine Twitch has made a lot of money from me, but not enough regularly to share any of it with me. So I haven't completely given up on Twitch. However, it's not on my radar currently, and I might revisit some experimentation over there. Essential Working Too Hard has contributed $2. Wow, what have I missed? A case full of chips. Well, all you gotta do is, this is kind of complicated. I want you to get a pen and paper. This is called a mouse. You guys are sensing something really sarcastic right now, right? Well, you're right. And you click the little button down at the bottom of the video. There's this little bar that moves back and forth. And you drag that little bar all the way to the beginning, and you can see what you missed. I probably shouldn't point that laser in my eye. Now I want to do it again. Don't do it. Gabriel Granado says, nice haircut. No, I didn't get a haircut. I got my head bigger. My ego got inflated. Does it look like I got a haircut? Which one? Nick Poverman says, I did not want to rewind, Carey. I would rather interrupt you and have you re-explain everything specifically for me. Okay, Nick. Hi, my name is Carey Holzman. Welcome into today's video. Today is Thursday, the 16th of July, 2020. My name is Carey Holzman. Thank you so much for watching. Today we're going to be installing the cooler that I was going to install yesterday. This is the SE-234-ARGB cooler that claims to have a TDP of 200 watts, and we're going to test that out today. I feel like I've done all this before. When did I become the rewind button? How did that happen? Listen, Nick, be kind. Rewind. I'm on fire today. I don't know. There's something in those chips. I'm going to have some more of these. Because I'm hilarious today. What's going on with you? You come here often? You know, I know the owner. It's tough being a multimillionaire with his heart problems, you know? Oh, I'm live? Jeez, excuse me. Can you OD on these? What's the dosage? best by December 9th, 2020. Like these are going to last till December. They're not even going to last till July 20th. Are you kidding me? I'm sure there's no preservatives in there. That's totally natural. Those chips have been touching in the bag, but they're all the same flavor and texture. The flavor and texture of one item is not affecting the flavor and texture of another item. So if you've got some French fries next to a juicy steak, and the juice on that steak is soaking into those crispy French fries, diluting the flavor of potato and the crispiness of the French fry with a soggy, mushy, limp, steak juice tasting French fry, that's disgusting. But if all the French fries are touching each other, they have no impact on the texture or the flavor of the other fries that surround it. Because a French fry is dry, a French fry on a steak really doesn't affect the steak. The steak's probably got salt on it already. But the other way around, I mean, do we really have to discuss this? Michael says, try pickle flavored chips. No, you try pickle flavored chips. Sorry. It's disgusting. I'm not putting pineapple on my pizza. I'm not putting pickles on my chips. Peter Murray says he's watching me eating Walker's salt and vinegar. Right on, Peter. You're a moderator. Like you already. I'm not a salt and vinegar fan myself, but I understand the passion. Don't get me started on food. I haven't eaten today. You're not helping. Ray Burke wants to know how my day is going. He's in the process of replacing an old car with a new car. What's the old car? What's the new car? Is it truly new or is it new to you? What'd you buy? Why'd you buy it? Here's a wee bit of trivia. Here in the UK, all those bags of chips go out of date on a Saturday. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? I wonder if I read the date backwards, right? Because everybody but the USA puts the day, then the month, then the year. Did I read it? Well, no, because there's no month 20. Yeah, it says best before 12/9/20. They put it in US format. Am I seeing it wrong? I might have had too many chips. What does that say? Looks like 12/9/20 to me. I know there's no month 20. Otherwise, employers owe me a lot of money. People who say no pineapple on pizza have never tried Canadian bacon pineapple pizza. You're supposed to use crushed pineapple. Just no. No. Canadian bacon is disgusting. Sorry, Canadians. I don't like it. Brian says that's the 12th of September, 2020. Wait, what? Oh, I see what I did. And that makes more sense, right? Because the chips shouldn't last like 5 months. Thank you. I'm just checking to see if you're paying attention. Gold star. Thank you, Stephen. Know it all. If avocado on pizza is okay, so is pineapple. That's what Benjamin Hale says. Whoever said avocado on pizza was okay? Nobody said that. Go to San Francisco and they put broccoli on a pizza. You want me to put some soil on there? You like chocolate chips? Uh-huh. You like pizza? Yeah. Well, try our new chocolate chip pizza. Oh, sounds good. Just no. Now I'm getting offended. Whereas Team Jeffrey says, I don't care, you're nuts. Well, you say that like it's a bad thing. You're watching. Nick says, come to New Jersey and try a pork roll. It's times like this when I like to bring up my Jewish heritage. Not necessarily because I'm kosher, but because I don't like. If you tell somebody, I don't want to eat that, they're like, well, try it. But if you tell somebody, I can't eat that, they're like, oh, okay. So we're just going to cut to the chase here and say, I can't eat that. David Starbuck, with a $20 contribution, obviously has classic taste in pizza and understands with his statement, pineapple on pizza is gross. You know what, David? Forget if it's gross or not. It's just wrong. Maybe if I'm in Hawaii, I'll let it slide. Maybe. Probably not. Don't laugh, but Nick says there's a place here in Belmar, New Jersey that it does a dessert pizza with chocolate on it. Yeah, but these dessert pizzas, like Domino's and Papa John's, will take the pizza crust. You're not going to have marinara and cheese. They'll just put like a cinnamon seasoning and drizzle. It becomes a cinnamon, you know. It's not pizza. It's not like they're taking a traditional pizza and putting chocolate on it. They're just using the bread and making a dessert out of it with different toppings. So what? Everybody, Don Melitas just joined us in the chat room. Remember we talked about Don a little earlier. Hope everybody will wish Don well. It's good to see him in the chat room. He joins us from Australia, recovering from life-altering and life-saving surgery. Welcome in, Don. Good to see you, my friend. Sounds like he's home, and I bet he feels a lot better just being home. Sometimes just being in the hospital can make you feel sick. Catherine Anna Hauserman says it is wrong. No Italian puts pineapples on a pizza. You should try that. Go to Naples. Say, I'd like a pineapple pizza, please. I'll come visit you in the hospital. I'll send you a get well card. Not Don, the people going to Naples asking for a pineapple pizza. What about a mac and cheese pizza? Phil the Gamer wants to know. Oh, I don't know. I have an idea. How about if we make a lasagna pizza? Or what other food combinations? A wonton soup pizza. Ooh, that sounds delicious. It's disgusting and wrong. You eat whatever you want to eat. I don't care. More for you. This is my this is my dismissal. You guys are very kind, showing good side on the chat room today. Very nice of you guys. William Lynn says, it's my birthday today. I'm turning 16. Well, congrats, William. Happy birthday. That's a big birthday. Here in America, it's driver's license time. Not that you can go anywhere. That's all right. You know, I've been 16 more than 3 times. I'm getting pretty good at it. You could say I'm the oldest 16-year-old you know, probably. You know, get a shout out to William Lynn. Say happy birthday to William Lynn if you're feeling kind. Paul Ware has contributed $10. He says, thanks to you, I was able to build my own computer. Thank you so much. Right on, Paul. That's awesome. What'd you build? And why did you build it? And was it, did you have any unexpected issues? Tell us. Michael Dane says, I prefer a sub from Subway. Yes, because cutting a piece of bread and placing meat and condiments on it isn't something we have the capability of. Sorry, Michael, I'm in a mood. And Jacob says, how's that cooler coming along? Yeah, I probably should get back to that, shouldn't I? All right. All right. All right. So we've already cleaned the surface of the CPU. We've got the brackets installed. And the last part, of course, will be to remove this protective cover from the bottom of the heatsink. And again, you don't want to do this until you're ready to install. Now, I could do it right now. And there's a warning on the bottom if you read it. And it's written in Mandarin or Cantonese, I guess, down below. I don't know. There it is. But before I do that, there's one thing I want to apply the thermal compound. So I've got my glove. Is it going to fit? Here it goes. Doesn't fit. I didn't do it. It's just case closed. Wait, what are we talking about? Oh, applying thermal compound. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we're going to put on this nitrile glove. It's not latex, it's not rubber, it's nitrile. We do that because nitriles, it doesn't conduct or promote electrostatic discharge. Operating rooms, they've actually had fires break out during surgeries with the rubber or latex gloves in use, so they don't use them in surgery centers. It's all nitrile now. I try and get the thinnest gloves possible. These are 3 mils, 3 millionths of an inch thick. The thinner, the more I can feel through the glove. If I was doing engine work, I would tear through these and I would need a thicker glove. But working in electronics, and you still want to have the feeling. How do you feel anything through a glove? Well, I'll show you. Let me punch you in the face. Tell me if you feel it. Anyway, it's violent. I apologize. We're going to apply the thermal compound in the way that I do it. Well, one of the fascinating things about being public on the internet and demonstrating what I do for a living is all the people who don't do this for a living that tell me I'm doing it wrong. It's fascinating. I'm not here to tell you how to do anything. I'm here to show you how I do it. How that's misinterpreted into me bossing you around, how that's misinterpreted into it's the only way, how that's interpreted into your way sucks, I don't understand. I don't care how you choose to do it. I don't have to support you, and how you choose to do it has no impact on my business. And whether or not you approve, I didn't ask. Because at the end of the day, I have customers to maintain and I have a business to run. And I am voluntarily choosing, and I don't have to demonstrate to you a successful method that's kept me in business for more than 20 years. And if you choose to discount that because you read something on Reddit, well, you're a funny little one, aren't you? So what I'm going to do is what I always do. We're going to put some of this thermal compound. Is it going to come out of here? What the heck? I don't think it's supposed to rattle. One of the issues you're going to run into with some coolers, sometimes they sit in shipping for a while through distribution, and they might sit on a shelf before you buy it, and you don't know the age. Do you hear it rattle? That's not. What is in here? Dice? The when thermal compound gets old, it breaks down and it becomes hard. And the ability for it to transfer the heat is reduced significantly. Your ability to apply it is going to be far more difficult. Listen. Maybe I'm just, you know what? Maybe I'm just hearing the cap. But I'm pushing down on that, and I shouldn't have to push that hard. Wow. It's like, does anybody have any X-Lax? Mucinex? Okay. um, yeah, that's, no. We're right back to pineapple pizza. Trash. It's too old. That thermal compound has deteriorated, whether it was temperature and how it was stored in the summertime, perhaps during transport. I don't know, but it broke down. You do not want to use that. Here's a comparison. This is really inexpensive thermal material. This is Noctua, however you say it. This thermal compound is actually reasonably priced, and you get a lot of it, and you can apply this thermal compound to probably half a dozen CPUs for what's in this tube. It's manufactured by a respected cooling manufacturer, and there isn't a whole lot of difference, honestly, whether you're getting I don't know, what's that expensive stuff called? Aquanaut? I don't know. It's stupid. It's really expensive. It's not Aquanaut. I'm just kidding. But there's very expensive thermal compounds for those that are gullible, or those that have no understanding of the value of a dollar, for those who don't care. But keeping things practical, as long as your thermal compound is fresh, it hasn't turned on you. What type you use, not that big of a deal. Let's see the difference. If I take the cap off of here, let me throw this cap out. I do not want to confuse them. I'm done with that. So we take this cap off of here. It just kind of unscrews like so. And this should just sort of, I don't have to push on the plunger very hard. There's some resistance, and it should just kind of come out, and I don't want to get it on the floor. Oh yeah, so that's a lot better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just place, oh, I don't know, about a pea size amount. You're going to have to estimate this. Maybe estimate a little low, okay? Because it's easy to add easier than to take off extra. Although that's not that big of a deal either way. We're going to start with that amount right there, which we can close up on. That looks like a lot. Looks like more on camera than it looks like in person. No big deal. I'm going to use my glove, and I'm going to finger paint the thermal compound across the surface of the CPU so that it is just like painting, right? I want to not be able to see the surface of the CPU. And then you'll see me sort of tap on this. And what I'm doing here is just really aggravating my motherboard. Oh no. Does this bother you? Now, the reason I do that is because it creates these little peaks and valleys. So when we compress the CPU cooler down on top, those will flatten out to resolve any potential little air bubble issues that honestly aren't really issues. Once the CPU gets to temperature, it heats up. this thermal compound will become more viscous and fluid. It would fill in any air gaps, maybe even create new ones, but hey, you don't see it. So therefore, it's nothing to worry about. That's how that works, right? I want to make sure that I covered the entire surface area of that CPU. And it's on a little bit heavy, but you know what? It's fine. It's not an exact science. It can be as bad to have too little as to have too much, but we're not going to really have any issues with stuff oozing out. You see I've got some across the frame, and nobody's going to see it, but it kind of bothers me. So I'll grab like a Q-tip here, and I can honestly see it better on the camera than I can see it in person. That's weird, because in person it doesn't look that bad. Again, the customer's never going to see this. I just have a lot of pride. Everything is backwards. I'm kind of going slow so I can figure out which direction I have to go. Wow, it looks really bad here too. This doesn't hurt anything. You can totally ignore this, by the way. You don't have to do what I'm doing. All right. And I could keep wiping that down, but it just doesn't matter. We good? Everybody with me? So as I mentioned, to put the cooler on now, there's a gap on one side of the cooler where the screw is. There's no gap over here. So where the gap is, that's the side that's going to go towards your RAM. We're going to put the fan here, and we're going to blow the air out that way. So this is going to go on like so. Then we'll mount the fan, push the air out. Same direction as this fan, same direction as the front fans. All the fans are moving the air that way. To do this, it's very difficult to do this with the case upright. You can if you want to. Good luck. I'm going to move these boxes off of here because I need to set the case flat. And if I had a cameraman here, they could grab the camera and look over my shoulder. Everybody's taller than me, so that wouldn't be a problem. But I'm here alone, not because of the pandemic. It's just I'm a nerd. I'm an antisocial nerd. So they told me there was a pandemic. I didn't really notice. No, that's a piece from that other cooler. It goes over there. Set this down. All right, so I'm just going to do what I said I was going to do. Peel off the tape right before you're ready to install. That keeps that surface area as clean as possible. Now we're going to orient the cooler as I described with a little gap towards the RAM. If I say it 18 more times, it should sink in. I'm going to start one side, just a couple of turns, just get it started. If you tighten it too much, you won't get the other side started. So just a couple of turns, and then once you get it started, you'll feel it. It sort of locks down. Then come to the other side, and you're going to have to add a little bit of pressure depending on how much you've tightened the first side. You need to get both of these screws tightened. You need to get both of these screws started. Once they're started, then you can tighten them. I'm having a little difficulty with this driver because of this piece here. It kind of sticks out. So ideally, you're going to use a screwdriver that is straight through, and they don't include one. I just so happen to have the right kind of driver. This came from a Mugen 5 cooler from Scythe. It's not like it can only be used once, and it's not like it only works with Scythe. It's a number 2 standard Phillips with a long handle on it, and that enables me to get down in there much easier. I still have to come in at kind of an angle, and then I want to tighten each side down in balance if I can, as much as possible. It doesn't have to be precise, but I don't want to fully tighten down one side. I want to try and equally turn them, and no specific amount of turns. Just give it a few turns on one side, give it a few turns on the other side, etc. Repeat until they don't turn anymore. those turn quite a bit. They are not as shallow as they appeared at first glance. I got the right side fully tightened, and now I'm going to go and fully tighten. Yeah, it's pretty close to the same amount of turns. Don't have to be that precise. Holy moly, look at that. That is absolutely incredible work. Can we get an instant replay? Oh, we didn't catch it on camera. Well, maybe next time. Time to attach the fan. To attach the fan, this fan is a little unusual in that we've got two wires coming out. And I'll explain why. Because this fan has addressable red, green, blue, RGB, it has an extra wire to control the lighting. And that's all well and good, but then how does the lighting get power? Unfortunately, this end here for the addressable RGB doesn't contain enough power to power the LED. So attached in line is this little adapter right there. And so if you don't have addressable RGB built onto your motherboard, they've included this piece I mentioned earlier that's going to plug into your power supply to derive the power. So I'm going to guess that this cable that came off of the heatsink right here, this is a funky little cable. You're not going to see this on other brand coolers. This is a proprietary design. See that little funky plug? It's weird. And it just happens to match the funky little socket, and these two things they're going to go together. But not right this minute. I want to go ahead and mount the fan first. I just wanted to get that explanation out of the way, because normally when you see me hook up like a Mugen 5 or even the Dark Rock or whatever, we normally just have the 4-pin fan connector and we're done. And by the way, you can do that. This fan will operate and the cooler will operate. You don't have to use this other wire at all. But then why did you buy the ARGB cooler? I don't know why you do stuff. Well, you can if you want to, just so you know. So what I'm going to do is, looking at this fan, I know that the brackets, you see these these support brackets? You see that center, when I spin the fan, you see that center does not turn? I know the air is coming out that side. This side where the center is moving with the fan and there's no support brackets, that's the air that's the side of the fan that draws air in. And all you have to do is look at the other fans. They're exactly the same. Even though they're made by other companies, they all operate the same way. Nobody's reinventing the fan here. And what I want to do is grab two of these fan hanger bracket wire thingy. Sorry, was I using too much technical jargon? And I want to visualize how I'm going to put this fan on. I want the wires to be as close to the motherboard header as possible. I don't want to wrap the wires around the fan. The reason I don't want to do that, number one, it's ugly. Number two, through moving the computer around, you could have the fan move to a position that blocks it in the fan, and your fan won't turn. And then, why did you put a fan on if you don't want it to turn? So we want to keep the distance for the main power cable as short as possible to where its destination is. We know the destination is right there. So I don't want to put the cooler in this way and run the cable across. I don't want to put the cooler in this way and then run the cable across. You can. I'm not recommending it. What I want to do is I want to visualize how that's going to go on. And I realize now it'd probably be a good time for me to do the wire management on this. This is a long cable. Who's got a motherboard where the fan header for the CPU fan is that far away? Oh, that guy right there. Yeah, there's always one of you All right, let me grab a cable tie. I might need two. And let me grab my wire cutter so I can cut those pigtails off. Wire cutters. Uh-huh. Oh, I almost forgot. Bear with me here for a minute, guys. Such a professional. Just abandons his audience on camera. Okay. This cable is only going to run, all right, so if we put the fan in like this, and that cable is only going to run about that much to the motherboard. So I can pretty well guesstimate, is that a word? The length of cable that I need. So, are you taking a shot every time I say the word so? Because you gotta be plastered. Now, how much care you want to take with how neat you want to be is entirely up to you. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to. If you do it right the first time, you only have to do it once, and you can show it off and say, look at how good I did, and seek all of your friends' approval, because, you know, that's important. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to fold the cable on top of itself, which is really stupid because it's a little difficult with this much cable and nobody's going to see it. And when I fold it, I want to make sure that I'm not having to twist this back, right? So one final fold right there. Try and keep it stacked to keep it pretty. Grab a nylon zip tie. Not working out well for me. That's all right, I'm used to it. Come on. Cooperate. All right. Put the bottom one, I'm going to use two. So I'll put one on the bottom. If I put one in the middle, then the sides kind of stick out and nobody's going to see it. Actually, this has a glass panel. Maybe they will see it. What have I done? This isn't right. You see how this end, it's not at one side or the other. It's somehow managed to fold in. Damn it. That's going to cost me a quarter of a penny. That's like a whole viewer's income for a month of YouTube videos. Let's do this again. This way. There we go. Like that. No, okay. No, yeah. Wait. No. Straight. Good. Mm-hmm. 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 Stay. So is this what a computer technician does? He just kind of fold cables and use wire ties? They're nylon zip ties. Oh, can't even do that right. This is why you should work on your own computer. Not this again. I can tell you that's a lot more length of the cable than I need, but it'll be a vast improvement if we had just ignored it, or if we try to do this after it's installed, because reaching into the cases, doing this while it's installed will be quite a challenge for most of us, and I don't want to work that hard. Madi Yoel has contributed $10, and he says, I love the Dark Base 700. Yeah, that's the case, right? The Dark Base 700 is the case we used for you, Madi. A heavy case. I'm glad he likes it. If he sent it back, it would cost a bundle. Paul O'Brien again with another contribution. He goes, can you use Velcro instead of nylon zip ties? Quite often, Paul, power supplies will come, especially high-end power supplies, will come with nylon wire straps. In some cases, like from NZXT and others, will also have the nylon, the Velcro rather, wire straps. But that's primarily for your main cabling, not for your fan. I don't advise using a nylon. Why do I keep calling it nylon? I don't recommend using the Velcro ties for the power fan, for the power to the fan of any fan, because it's a very small cable. And this is why people have scripts. The Velcro cable management tools, straps, the Velcro cable management straps are often quite wide, and you'd have to wrap it around several times on a cable this narrow, and you would never have any excuse that I can imagine to ever undo this. Like, the manufacturer could have sent it to me this way. The manufacturer could have even given me a cable that's 6 inches long, and I wouldn't have had to do this at all. But this is a permanent change. Unless we're changing the motherboard at some point. I mean, it's a brand new build. Why would I be changing the motherboard anytime soon? And if I'm spending that kind of money and time, why wouldn't I also change my cooler? Oh, who knows why people do stuff. But generally speaking, this should be done one time. The Velcro wire straps are intended for cables that you may be going in and changing around from time to time. So your power cables, maybe you're adding another hard drive or solid state drive. Maybe you're making a change to your case. And so on the back of the case, you would use those nylon wire straps to make your life a little easier, because I've seen people cut their nylon zip ties and they're not seeing too good, and they cut right through the cable. You notice these wire cutters I used? You see how they're bent? In order to avoid cutting the wires, if I have to remove a nylon zip tie, I don't dig at it with the point. I use this smooth edge that's bent, and I lay it flat against the cable, and then I squeeze. That way it guarantees I don't eat through the cable by mistake. So the Velcro wire straps are intended to be used where there would be reasonably frequent cable management additions or removals. This will never change. So therefore, I don't recommend using a intended temporary wire management for what should be a permanent wire management solution. Thank you for the question. So I have another contribution here, and I'm just trying to translate what the heck it is. 500 Argentine pesos, basically $7 US, is contributed by Oni. Hey, thank you, Oni. He says, greetings to Don, the one-legged man. All right. Long live, it might be a little soon, Oni. You know what I mean? It might be a little soon. Long live to him and great streaming Corey. Much love from Argentina. I, I get where you're going with that. Thank you. I hope Don has a good sense of humor. Little soon. Little soon. Nunman 1962's contributed $35. Very generous. He says, hey, Carey, I don't know what's in those chips, man, but it must be something good. Get your own. Thank you for the contribution. Two Blue, Two True was contributed $10. Carey, when is the overhead view coming back? Your community demands. LOL, I love your videos. You've changed the way I build computers. Thank you, Two Blue, Two True. It's complicated to set all that equipment up. And I'm lazy. I'm a slacker. What do you want? At the other studio location, well, here's the problem. So I had 3 of these cameras. I use the word had. The reason I got 3 of these $2,500 cameras was because, one, the community was generous enough. A couple of individuals more or less paid for them. YouTube sure as heck did. And the reason I wanted 3 was I wanted to go to a 3-camera setup. And then things changed, and I had this opportunity to have this other studio. So I took one of the cameras, tripod heads, set it all up over there with another streaming computer, got that all up and running. And my sister, you guys are familiar with my sister, she's doing those fantastic intros and outros. All the thumbnails, well, not all the thumbnails, the good thumbnails you see are done by her, and the bad ones are done by me. And she wants to make content. In fact, she did the flash drive comparison video. And we weren't quite sure, you know, do I want to give her a real nice camera so she can make one video? You know what I mean? But she wants to make more content for the channel as time permits. And so I said, okay, here's the 3rd camera with the tripod, which takes me back to having just one camera. Now, I do have other cameras that are the older, smaller cameras I was using a few years ago, and they'll work fine for this purpose. What I would like to do is, I was looking back at a video that Mitch and I filmed that had the overhead. No, it didn't. When Mitch is here, he is the overhead camera. What am I saying? I did it on my own. I had the overhead camera, and then I had the front camera. I had them both on at the same time, and I realized as I was watching it that I sort of put the screen in a 2/3 mode. I didn't realize it did it, but it's no good having the second camera if it's covering up what you're doing from the overhead camera. So I shifted everything to the left and to make room for the other camera, and realized at the top corner there's a video. There was room for another video in the bottom right corner with the overhead sort of shifted to the left. That'd be kind of cool, you know, have a right angle, a left angle, and a top angle. When I get the other studio set up, you have to remember I'm in a kitchen. I have to live in here. Most of this equipment gets broken down, disconnected. It has to be entirely reset up again each time I want to go live. It takes like 10 minutes. It's forever. So I just want to leave. It is like 10 minutes, but man, it's the same freaking run the cable, plug the cable in, plug this in, adjust this, turn this on. Once I have it all set up at the studio, all I have to do is flip a button, everything's already set up, right? So lazy me, I don't have to exert any effort. So we will get back to that, and I have a lot of builds and a lot of opportunity to explore that once that other location is up and running. But the other location is temporary. However, whatever I get working for me at that other location will work at any location thereafter. So it's I said so, did you take a shot? It's a process. Once I get that process figured out, that process will work the same no matter what location I'm at. I cannot do it here, or rather, I don't want to do it here because it strings cables all across the floor. I've got to go through all the effort of getting the overhead boom out, putting in the tripod. I mean, that might take all of 3 or 4 minutes, and I can't be bothered. So You will see that when I can set it up and do it once. I hate doing the same job over and over and over again. It feels very robotic. It's very tedious. It doesn't challenge me. Or I can hire somebody and make them be my gopher and say, hey, I'm going to go live in a half an hour. Get the studio set up, would you? Go set up the cameras, run the cables, test it, get everything in focus, make sure it all functions. Let me know when it's ready. Tell me when it's 30 seconds to airtime. Get somebody to do my hair and makeup. Respond to my emails for me, would you? Also, do the thumbnail and do all the hashtags and somebody else do that. I'm the talent. It could happen. I'm glad you like the overhead view. I like it too. I really don't like setting it up and I don't like working around it. It's very challenging. That overhead boom has to be behind me, like literally inches. So if I lean back too far, I hit it. And I have no way to control. Well, it's difficult to control because I have to reach way up and feel for the buttons for like zoom and stuff like that. And try it sometime. Try and operate 3 cameras, work without a script, focus on your work, do it right, watch your internet stream, make sure your cable modem and router are set up correctly, make sure your connection is good, your computer is capable, updated, your streaming software is updated. If you get a stream deck, make sure that's updated, functioning, test it. And then when you're done, tear it all down because you got to eat in the room that you're filming in. Then tell me how many times you're going to do that before you're like, we're going to save this for special occasions, big builds. Or when I'm not so busy, I can spend a little bit more time. But I've got so many people waiting on me, it's embarrassing. It turns out if you ignore them, they don't go away. Who knew? So what I'm going to do now, or what I'm attempting to do now, is I'm trying to put these little wire hangers on. These go on just like, I don't know if you can see that, but just pretty much like any other cooler, like any other CPU cooler with this kind of fan design. And I need to kind of keep an eye on where these cables are being routed here. I want to route this cable through this little slot so that the fan, this is the CPU cooling fan, will sit flush. If this cable sticks out of this groove, then this fan isn't going to sit completely flush, which by the way isn't that important. It just makes my OCD happy. But there's a little groove in here, and the reason it's there is so you can route your cable cleanly through there, and it won't interfere with the installation or the operation of the fan. Although the operation of the fan, as I mentioned, isn't going to be adversely affected. So I'm going to align this fan as best I can, because I'm the man with a plan. And the way I do that is I push the fan until it won't go any further down. And that's how I know it's as far down as it will go. And it just turns out it pretty much, it rises. The fan is usually never flush with the top of the heatsink. It usually sticks out a little bit. And depending on the cooler manufacturer, it might stick out a little bit more. But universally, I will push the fan down until it hits the mounting screw. And then I make sure it's seated this way. And then the other thing I want to watch for is to make sure that the fan's not tilted. Again, it really doesn't matter, but it's a visual thing. And because this is a glass panel on here, you'll see it. Then I'm going to pull on the little tab on that wire hanger, and it's going to sit within the fins of this radiator, of this heat sink. I've been calling this a radiator because the instructions are so bad that came with that other cooler, and they were calling it a radiator, and it sort of influenced me. I'm having a little trouble getting this to catch. Let's look under here, see what's going on. Oh, I see the problem. I'm doing it wrong. You really shouldn't have to look under here to do this. It should just kind of work. Doesn't feel right. Am I can't see it. It's something I'm feeling for. I got the top one in. This feels level. It doesn't mean it is. It feels level. I feel like these cables are potentially preventing this fan from sitting properly. I don't like that these wire hangers don't hang on to the fan mounting holes. They're loose, so you see how easily that just fell off. Come on now, what? What's happening right now? This is the easy part, Carey. This is weird. That looks like it's about level. Well, I am baffled. It's loose, but apparently that's the way they designed it. The fan looks straight. Huh. I don't like that at all. I feel like the top snapped in, and I feel like this bottom one isn't snapping, but it's in the groove. It just kind of fell in there. But it's not coming off. And the play in it, I would say, is not to be concerned about. It's normal. This is the RGB, the ARGB cable. We need to run that all the way down to the bottom of the motherboard. And then there's that little 2-pin plug that I mentioned. That's gonna go get plugged in right here. I can do that now. Those, I know you can't see that. Let's see if we can zoom you in a little bit. I really don't think a cooler install should take 2 hours. But listen, you're not paying me by the hour. Relax. Come over here and do it if you can do it better. So you see I've attached that little cable right there. That's going to provide power. I think that provides power. I don't know. This cable right here, that's our traditional 4-pin CPU fan connector, and that's going to go, if I raise the camera a little bit, and that's a little too much there, Carey. Just move it this way. Go always the opposite way, Carey. It's always the opposite way. After about 5 or 6 more years, I think I'm going to get this down. And then what we're going to look for is this fan connector. It's a different color. Or you could read your instructions, and it'll specify which of your fan headers is for the CPU. But most of the time, it'll either be a different color, or it'll be written in small letters right around the connector. Where's my finger? Right around this connector, it may say CPU fan. See right there? What does that say right there? CPU fan, it's referring to that, even though the lettering is a little further away. There's no other fan header that you might be confusing that with. And then, of course, there's documentation. Now, the fan header has little grooves in it, if you can see that, and that can only go in one direction. You can't, well, I suppose you could force it in upside down, but you want to work way too hard if you do that. And you see with the cable management that I've done, that specific, ignore this other cable, that specific cable's darn near hidden. Now the rest of this cable, if it's long enough, we can run it through this wire management grommet and pull it through. And I want to pull as much of it through as possible. Autofocus. As much of it as possible. That's going to do two things. One, it's going to give me more slack because it's going to be a tight run here. Two, it's going to hide more of the cable from the front. And as I mentioned, that plug has got to go all the way down onto the bottom of the motherboard. So we want to keep the cable management looking as clean as possible. So we'll bring it right back up to the front. Underneath here, there's probably somewhere a wire management hole. Yes? Hello? Yeah, it's right there. It's right where I meant it to be. And if we bring the computer case back around to the front, having this lazy Susan helps to keep me lazy. There's typically an indicator because you could, I suppose, put this little connector on right side up or upside down. I don't think anything prevents you from putting it on upside down. It won't hurt anything if you put it on upside down. I suppose it probably won't work right if you do that. Let me take a quick look at the connector. I don't know which way it's supposed to go. So I'm going, well, I do have an arrow. There's a very, let's zoom in here, see if we can show you this. On this wire, on the end of it, if you look very closely, do you see that little arrow? It's right by the end of my thumb. That's indicating that that's pin 1. And if I look down at the plug itself, right here, it says LEDC. There should be a pin 1. I don't know where it is, and I can't be bothered to look it up, and I don't really think it matters. Can I plug it in or no? Is it not going to let me? Yeah, I already see a problem. This has a blocked pin on the edge. Do you see that? And the reason they did that is it's intended to be plugged into a connector that ensures you can only plug it in one way. By having all 4 pins out like that, that is not going to work. Oh, was it that time? Not yet. You guys have 10 minutes before you eat. Your clock is off by 10 minutes. Good boys. Is that not ARGB? Is that why? Is it sRGB? I don't know. I don't know, but they clearly block that pin. Tell you what I'm going to do. Tell you what I'm going to do. Let's move that. Let's back that off. Look it. Do you see I'm in the middle of something? I mean, really, am I supposed to just stop what I'm doing? You're early. You're early, mister. Oh, I don't want to hear it. I understand that you're hungry. Yes, I get it. I get it. I said the word. Okay. Okay, don't say the word. I need you to wait just a few more minutes. You're a little early. Yes, don't argue with me. You're early. Oh, is that how you talk? You just look at the cookie jar, then you look at me, and then you look at the cookie jar and you look at me. I don't know what you want. Speak English. Oh, you want to do the work? You want to put the cooler on? What's wrong with your brother? I know, right? All right. We're gonna get to you guys in a minute. You're early. Wait your turn. You're such a good boy. Is there brains in you? Yep, I hear them. All right. Um, I'm not going to hook that connector up right now because there's a couple of things I can do. One, I need to verify that's actually an ARGB header. If it is, I imagine that little plug I can get a little dental pick and pull that out, which is really hacky. I don't want to do that. Or, we do have this. I don't want to use it. But I'm just going to use it for the power up so we can see the pretty lights. So I'm going to push that cable back out. I'm not going to keep this on. There's no way I'm keeping this on. You see there's a cap? There's a cap. Take the cap off. 3 pins. Goes on one way. Not rocket science. Huh? Yeah, look at. Look. I'm only going to show this to you like 12 times, so pay attention. This goes on like that. Nothing holds it. Nothing holds it together. Just falls right off. Isn't that a great design? 2020, ARGB, latest craze. Nothing clips it, nothing holds it. So you're going to have to do some cable management to fold the cable up and then zip tie it up here so it can't come off. Not worried about that right now. And now we have to give it some juice. We have to give it some power. This is a standard SATA power connector, and we're going to plug that in to any available SATA connector. Watch that it's, well, you guys can't see nothing. There's like a little hockey stick shape to it here. There's a lip on one side. So this only plugs in one way, and if you force it or bend it too hard, you will break that little clip. It'll still work. And we're done. All right. And there you go. Hey, come here. Oh, you brat. Get that. Get it. Bring it here. Bring it here. Bring it to me. Bring it. No, get it. Go get that. Go get it. Go on. Are you grabbing this? Is this what you're doing? You know, you are not a cat. That's just rude. What if I need to return that? What if I need to eat? How do you like it? I'm so hungry, I'll eat this box. I don't care. Go on. Is that what you're going to do? You're going to upstage me on my own show? Traitor. Why you got to be so damn cute? Jeez, oh man. Just, can I, Lyle, can I, and Jimmy's wanting nothing to do with it. Let me just pick this up from the floor. Oh my God, he's coming. I'm just going to pick this up. I'm going to set it over here. Can I set that over there? Look at this goofy face. Hey. I killed your father. Get revenge. Get revenge. Get revenge. Come on. Yeah. You see, he's like that singing frog. He won't do it when people are watching. All right, let's get you guys some food. You've earned it. My little clickbait dogs. You hungry? Is it time for your dinner? Okay. All right. I get the message. I hear you. Here we go. Bon appetit. Give Jimmy a little extra. What's he doing? What is this guy doing? You ready for some food? You're a good boy. All right, guys, what's been happening in the chat room? Everybody making fun of me? Give them each a bag of crisps. How dare you? Do you see me eating their dog treats? Well, they're not going to eat my human treats. And that's just common courtesy. Ryan says, I checked the motherboard manual. It indeed does not have a 3-pin ARGB header, only a 4-pin RGB. Maybe that's the difference between ARGB and RGB. I thought it would work. I don't care. Thank you for looking that up. Clearly, it's designed differently for a purpose. One could assume it's not ARGB. No. Rochester NY87 has contributed $5. And he says 3-pin ARGB. Sorry, 3-pin is ARGB. 4-pin is just RGB. So I guess they're not compatible. Ultimately, I will probably, well, since it's not ARGB, what's the point? Right? I can just put on a Dark Rock 2 or a Noctua, just put on a black cooler and be done with it. The RAM is enough RGB, honestly. But I'm very curious, how does this thing cool? And besides the fact, we can still control the lighting with the remote because, you know, that's super high tech. Use glue, use duct tape. Rochester NY87 contributes $5. He says the 3-pin is a 5-volt plug. 4-pin is a 12-volt plug. And there might be a 3-pin at the top right of the board. Well, that would be, I've never seen it placed there before. We'd have to pull the documentation. There's nothing on the top right. No. Nope. No. Well, there you go. If you want ARGB, do not buy the Gigabyte Z390M Gaming. What kind of gaming computer doesn't have RGB? I'm sorry, did I become 25 years younger? That was weird. Yeah. No luck. All right. Is it time for cookies? I get the sense something's telling me that it's time for cookies. So, cookies? Cookies? You want a cookie? Here, I gotta get smaller dogs. All right. You thought there was something in my chips. What is in these dog biscuits that Costco sells? Is this driving you crazy? Should I make you balance it on your notes? Ooh. I've lost 3 fingers that way already. There you go. And you. Oh, he's drooling. Is this torture? Oh, look at that drool coming down. It's gross. See ya. He's going to take it outside. It's like, get away from me. I got to get this human touch off of me. It's got your cooties. All right, look. Dog's got to eat, man. What are you going to do? We're ready to test fire this bad boy and measure the performance of the cooling, see what the LED lights look like, and conclude our review. 2-hour cooler install. I'm just looking through the comments right now before I move forward. I don't want to get too far ahead of where you guys are, or rather lag behind too far from where you guys are, as the case may be. All right, so I guess it's time. Hey, look, this is going to be like the first time I've been able to power this whole system up. Think about that. This was built how long ago, and I just haven't had time to get to it. And then I can finally unbox that 2080 Ti, and I get to test the video card Mike Smith returned to me that he says is bad, and he very well may be right. And but until I test it, I can't sell it to somebody else, and I can't return it because I need to be able to describe what's wrong with it. I have no choice but to test it. Just back this up a little bit. Raise that up. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to move this back a little bit so I have room for the keyboard and mouse. My standard keyboard and mouse. I'm really kind of sad that Amazon or the manufacturer of this keyboard doesn't make the tiny version anymore. It's got a 10 key. I like the portability of these little keyboards. I like that the keyboard and mouse are tied together with one dongle. You don't have to program it. It's all out of the box, ready to go. I like that they have rechargeable batteries in them. You never have to change the batteries. You charge it through the USB port. The charge lasts, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, depending how often you use it. And I'm sad I didn't buy more of these because they're all gone. I can buy them like this that take batteries, but I want this. Hopefully they'll bring them back again, maybe after the pandemic. I don't know. Keyboard and mouse are plugged in. Let me grab an HDMI cable. We're going to run off onboard video for our first boot up. Make sure that it boots. We don't want to add any additional components that aren't absolutely necessary as a minimal to require the system to post, to give it an opportunity to post. Because if it doesn't post, anything additional that we don't absolutely have to have is one more thing we have to consider as a suspect to the system not booting. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's make sure everything we've done so far works. This is a company called Twisted Veins that makes these cables. I like them a lot, but they don't wear very well. Most people plug in an HDMI cable one time, they're done. As I mentioned earlier, you have to keep plugging and unplugging things, and these cables are not lasting very long. But luckily they're cheap and I can just order some more. These are like 15 feet long, so I can go here to the back of your monitor. Yeah, I'm plugging in. You heard me. I know you don't believe me. Plug this in to the back of your home monitor that you're watching me on right now. And then right back here onto the back of the motherboard. If your CPU has built-in graphics, as the 9900K does, this will work. If your CPU is like a 9900KF, this will not work. Is there a 9900KF? 9700? Whatever it is, you know what I mean. What am I, an Intel spokesman?
Might as well be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last thing I always plug in is the power. We'll bring that back around this way. Switch on the power supply is in the off position. And this is another part I want to change, is this night jar. This is a completely fanless power supply. In other words, it's silent. But it's silver. It doesn't match the rest of the case, which I don't know why they did that. And the other thing that's weird is when I go to plug it in, Usually these go in with a little resistance. This is like, you really have to struggle. There. Well, at least you know it ain't falling out, right? And that's unusual. I will change this to a black power supply with a fan in it. Unfortunately, Silverstone sent this power supply to me months ago. Said, hey, you want to evaluate this fanless power supply? I said, that sounds great. See what I did there? Fanless sounds great. All right. Anyway, I didn't really have any opportunity to use it. I've been so busy helping customers, and I'm not going to sell it to somebody until I've verified it's good, it's reliable. And if this didn't have a clear window on it, nobody would ever see it. Or if the window stopped here, like it does in some cases, you also wouldn't see it. But because the window is the entire front, I want that to be black. Now I could take it, spray paint it. Honestly, I can't be bothered. This will be used in another build where perhaps it'll have a solid panel or something where maybe even a Phanteks. I don't even know why Phanteks left this part open. I mean, that's kind of weird, isn't it? A lot of other case manufacturers, when they have a power supply shroud, it covers the entire area, and you have to work on the power supply from the other side of the case only. This is an odd design choice, and I don't know why they did that. Still a good looking case. And because building a really good computer isn't enough these days, you've got to add RGB lights, you've got to color match everything. For some customers, I decided on this build I'm going to be one of those customers, see what it feels like. I'm not enjoying it. But regardless of the colors not matching, let's see if it works. I mean, not like that really matters. Up on top, power button. Let me flip the input to the back of your monitor. Do you mind? Is that okay? And I'm gonna just put my video right up over there. Oh, no. How about right there? Is that good? You see the face I'm making? How? So I'm gonna just put right. Perfect. This is live. This is unscripted. I don't know what's about to happen. I've only done this like 20, 30,000 times before. And one of the things I've never really gotten through my thick skull is that you have to flip the power supply switch back on first, and then it'll turn on. Who knew? You can see the lights. And hopefully we'll get a post screen on your monitor here in just a moment. All right. You'll see the RAM light up here when the system starts to post. There's the gigabyte. Oh, I guess we did. How the heck is this booting? Did I boot this before? What did I use as a cooler? I'm very confused right now. Oh, yes, I had the other cooler, didn't I? Duh. That's how memorable that other cooler was. Oh, that's not right. I don't think that's supposed to happen. I don't think changing the cooler should do that. I'm going to turn it off. Back on again. Once it shuts completely off, will the fan stop turning? Fire it back on one more time. I'm a little curious about that. All right. When something like this happens on a new build, oh, did I not hook up the rear case fan? The rear case, front case fan is turning. Why is the rear case fan? What's going on with my rear case fan? Sorry, I'm probably blocking your view here for a moment, but that rear case fan isn't coming on. That's a puzzle. We had a couple things going on. Obviously, the blue screen, if you're paying attention. And for some reason, oh, okay, rear case fan is on right now. So it's getting power and it works. Maybe the BIOS is turning it off? I don't know. Now, because this is a new install, it's really no big deal for me to reinstall Windows. I don't need to diagnose this problem and fix it. In fact, you should never fix a brand new install. Never, ever fix a brand new install. We're just going to do a reinstall. So I've got a Windows 10 flash drive right here. Windows 10 2004. Plug it into any USB port in the back. We're not going to plug it into the network. We just want to do a nice clean install. I think if I hit F10 on the keyboard, that should bring me into the boot options, and I'll select the flash drive. And in theory, now obviously I missed my opportunity. I'll flip it back off. I'm gonna flip it off. I totally flipped that off. F10, Carey. F10. Why is it not accepting F10? What am I missing? Weird. Sometimes, if your BIOS is trying to boot too fast, what you need to do, obviously, is shut the machine off, power back on, and hold F10 down. You see, it says, oh, it's F12. That's my problem. I've been working on too many Dells. I think the HPs are F9, gigabytes are F12. So it probably helps if I hit the right key. Give me a minute. I'm going to get this right on the 17th try. I'll get there. Oh, and you're so good, right? See your videos. Oh, they are pretty good. Never mind. That time when I hit the right button, it responded. So who knew? Everybody. All right, let's do UEFI SanDisk. That's the flash drive, but we do want it in UEFI mode. We're going to delete all the partitions that currently exist. You can't see me at all. You're welcome. We're going to delete all the partitions that are on that drive, do a fresh, clean install. I don't know why that's occurring. Honestly, I don't care. If I do a clean install and it fails, then I care. What's happening is I'm getting so sidetracked with so much work, I can't remember what I changed and what I did. So it's easier to start again. It's faster, it's more efficient. There shouldn't be any change to the BIOS with regards to legacy mode or not. Obviously, it offered to boot to UEFI. Look like I don't have a product key. Windows 10 Pro. It was kind of weird though. You know, this whole day's been weird. We're going to delete all these partitions. It's going to wipe out all the data on the drive. This will reset the hard drive back to factory fresh. So if you want to give a drive out or give a computer away to somebody and you do this, I hope there was nothing on the drive you wanted. We go back to what it looks like when it's new and freshly installed and just hit next like I always do. And it'll recreate the partitions, format those partitions, install Windows 10, and all you have to do is sit back and enjoy a bad Christmas. Any questions? Oops. Lyle, clean up Lyle floor. There you go, Jimmy. Arvid Baleris has contributed 100 Norwegian krona. Says having 8 fans for 2 radiators and 5 exhaust fans. I'm glad I didn't go for RGB fans. Well, that's a lot of cable management. And I'll bet you, if you disconnect some of the case fans and monitor your temperatures, it will make no difference to your temperatures whatsoever. One exhaust fan out the back of the case, or out of the top of the case, the top back of the case. If you've got like an all-in-one radiator, you don't need a rear exhaust fan on the computer at all. It's completely unnecessary. If you have any fans across the bottom of the case, sucking air up into the case, you don't need those, except for the one in the power supply. You don't need any additional. And I think if you experiment with that and monitor your temps, you'll realize those additional fans aren't really doing anything as far as helping you cool. But try it. Hugh Wong has contributed $10. He says, hey, Carey, I'm back from my shower. Well, thank goodness. But I'm good. I'm going to grab some Raisin Brands here. Boy, Hugh, you're very specific in the details. He says, don't spend this 70% cash all in one place. Too late. Thank you, Hugh. And thank you, Arvid. Let's see what happens on our first boot. You see how fast Windows 10 is to completely wipe and reinstall with a modern computer? Like, why do I want to sit here and futz around trying to fix a brand new install? You should not have to fix a brand new install. If it won't install correctly, you've got a problem. And so does the computer. Mitchell Morrison joins us. He says, yes, I'm here. Hey, Mitch. David Southern says, hi again from Portugal. It's very hot right here, and I can't sleep. Keep watching. I'll put you to sleep. You're at the right place if you want to sleep. We're off to a good start. We're looking at... I have to go full screen. I can't see this. Hold on a minute. It's on my side, guys. It's not on you. United States. Yes. US. Skip a secondary keyboard layout. Tell it right now I don't have internet. Basically, it's asking, are you sure? I'm going to click continue with limited setup. Then I can create a local user account instead of, if I'm plugged into the internet, Microsoft will force me to create an online account. I refuse. You can't make me. Hit next. Ignore the password. I don't want to set a password. And then I'm going to click no on all this stuff except for the location settings. I kind of like the convenience of location setting because it will set my time zone automatically. And if I want to type in, you know, where's Arby's near me, I don't have to tell it where I am. And I don't want Cortana doing stuff either. And then we just wait a minute, and it seems like, I don't know, it might have been a BIOS setting. You could be right. I can't be bothered to look right now. What I want to do at this point is simply test the cooler just to see if it's, effective or not. It looks the part, doesn't it? Looks good in there, I think. Hugh Wong has contributed $2. He says, "Hi, Mitch. We're missing you over here, Mitch. Especially for the overhead camera views." Mitch is basically a walking boom. I don't mean that because he's tall. I mean that everything he touches seems to explode. A kid. Ted wants to know if there's incompatible hardware. No, we had the whole system up and running when I tested the previous cooler, which look, what I've figured out so far is the human brain can only maintain so much information at any given time. And the older I'm getting, the bucket is getting shallower. So in the moment, I know exactly what's happening. And then I get distracted and I'm running the business and I'm answering emails. I'm filled with excuses. Hey, you try it. With Windows 10 now installed, I typically like to go and grab updates. To do that, though, I don't have Wi-Fi on here, so I'm going to have to run an Ethernet cable. Let's grab an Ethernet cable. Why not? Sure, we'll do it. Let's grab all the updates. Then we'll run Prime 95. We'll see if the cooler's any good. And let's see where we're at on time, because this has been going on. A cooler install, honestly, should not take 2 hours. On the other hand, how long it takes is less important than rushing it because you're trying to impress somebody, So don't worry about comparing how long it should take. It takes what it takes. Relax. It's okay. It's not a competition. Let me plug this into the router. It's going to pop up a thing once it recognizes we've plugged into the LAN, and it's going to ask if we want to be able to see if we want to enable folder sharing and stuff. I'm going to just say no for now. Oh, missed it. That's all right. But click here, updates and security. My screen is very tiny and I can't see. Isn't that updates? Yeah, and then check for updates. There's going to be a number of updates for Windows 10 2004. We're going to go ahead and put those in. And while that's doing that, let's go full screen on camera 1 so you guys can get an eye full of this RGB here. Transform, come on OBS, where are you? Fit to screen. There's the RGB, isn't that beautiful? Oh, wrong one. It's this one over here. This is the one. And we'll get you a little zoom in. And we'll turn the case a little like that. And then we will bring down the video gain on the camera. Let's darken the room. That really highlights that RGB. You see the RGB not only on the top, but around the edge. It kind of matches what's going on with the RAM, sort of. Doesn't appear to be any quieter or any louder than the 212 Evo or the Scythe Mugen 5. Just obviously not through any scientific measurement. But We throw that 2080 Ti in there, you're going to hear some fans at power on. So this is, comparatively speaking, very acceptable to what that video card, that high-end video card is going to be loud at post. Now, it's not bad. I kind of like, I need to admit it, I kind of like it. But if this cooler doesn't cool very well, I'll instantly not like it. So at the end of the day, it's more important how good of a job it does than how it looks. The same with me, by the way. And you can see the aperture setting, the video gain setting, and the difference it makes in my video. One of the things I really like about these 4K cameras, even though I'm not broadcasting in 4K, they have a bigger lens and they have better lighting controls than I've ever had on any camera. And I can adjust the camera very easily, much easier, and I don't even know if it was possible with my older cameras. And I can make this room so much brighter than it actually is in reality, right? That's way too bright. But nothing's actually happening to the lighting. This is all in the camera. It's pretty darn neato, right? That's what the kids say today. Listening to their Steely Dan, neato, groovy, far out. No. Patrick Manny's disappointed. Where's the disco ball? Do you really want me to break it out? Let me check in on how we're doing on our updates. I'll just turn off camera one. Oh, look at this. Probably should have been paying attention. Well, we know some driver installed that's causing this, right? Because Windows 10 installed perfectly fine. I guess I can go back to camera one now, huh? Let's make myself a little bigger, put myself right there. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just check the BIOS and let's see if there's anything in there I need to pay attention to. Very, very unusual and unexpected, but you know, it keeps me employed. I have to go full screen on my side so I can get a good view of what's happening here. We're on BIOS version F4. I bet you there is a newer BIOS version, but we know this had Windows 10 on it and we know it worked. So what's changed? Storage boot option control. I don't know. LEDs in system power on state. Well, wouldn't you want the, oh, I see, if you want to turn that. Okay. I'm kind of interested in when it's powered off, but whatever. Maybe you just don't want them, but you just bought that extra feature and disabled it and paid extra for it. I don't know why you did that. No, I don't care about that. No, I don't care about that. Yeah, that looks good. I thought we were using SETA. That looks fine. What am I missing here? What am I missing? Let's load optimize defaults. Let's let the BIOS go back to default settings and just leave it alone and see what happens. That's very strange. Unexpected. Bizarre. I like to call it Thursday. Sharon thinks it's Windows 2004. It's highly unlikely that a Windows update would cause a blue screen error, in that corporations have thousands of computers that get these updates, and it would shut down an entire corporation. That's not going to fly very long. Microsoft would have to address it rather immediately. I just want to see what happens here with the BIOS reset. And let me take a look at, it doesn't look good. It's kind of frozen right there. I'm going to look here on the streaming computer and see what the latest BIOS is. What did I say this motherboard was? A Z390M Gaming. And according to the website, the latest BIOS version currently is F9G. No, that's what I have, right? This is a little freaky because it shows strange dates. No, I guess not. I see they're doing the whole year, then month, then day platform. F9G. And what BIOS version did I say I had? I don't remember. Does anybody remember? Let's double check it. It is F4. Oh, from 2018. Whoa. Okay, so F9G is from December 2019. That's why I was thrown. So what I'll do is I'm going to grab my little BIOS flash drive, and I'm going to plug it into the streaming computer, and I can't really show you this anyway. So I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing. I want to just sort of narrate what's happening on my side. And I'm going to just go to the Gigabyte website, download this latest BIOS, and then I'm going to open the zip file and extract it to my local hard drive. Then it's going to open the extracted folder, and in that extracted folder, I'm going to grab the single file. There's several. I'm going to grab the one that just says Z390mg.f9g, and I'm going to copy that and then paste it onto my little 2 gig empty flash drive that I have dedicated for BIOS updates. Having now done that, I'm going to eject the flash drive, although I suppose these days you could just yank it. Doesn't hurt to eject it first. I'm going to grab this flash drive. I'm going to plug it into the back anywhere, to any USB port on the back of this computer that you're currently seeing on your screen. And then I will give it just a moment to initialize that flash drive. You don't want to work too quickly because you need to give the system an opportunity to say, oh, there's a flash drive, let me take a look at it. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to look at, I'm going to go, again, I've got to go full screen here on my side so I can see what I'm doing. Down here at the bottom, there's a little down arrow right down there, and we'll do QFlash. Update BIOS. Nope. There it is. Do the intact flash, and we're going to update this BIOS. An older BIOS can absolutely cause the symptoms that we've seen, and even though, here's the key. Here's my theory. A BIOS is compatible with Windows until it isn't. It is entirely possible that the pre-existing BIOS was totally compatible without problems until this most recent run of updates. And there had been several BIOSes, right? There was an F5, an F6, an F7, an F8, and now F9G. And I had F4, so I was missing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I was missing 5 versions. And you'll notice I just went to the latest version. I didn't, put in the versions in between. Those versions each came out for a specific reason. I don't know what it is, and I can't be bothered. All I know is I always want the latest version in order to avoid these problems from occurring. And I guess I didn't have time, whatever. I normally do this before I install Windows. It's just part of my process, so I don't have to do what I'm doing right now. I suspect this BIOS update will address whatever the incompatibility is with the driver. Obviously, it's something that's happening during the Windows update process. And well, I'm not touching anything. I'm just going to let this thing go on its own. Be patient when you're doing a BIOS update. When the system reboots, it may restart 3 or 4 times. Don't freak out. Let it be. Let it do what it needs to do. And it should eventually bring us back either into the BIOS or attempt to reboot into Windows. Now, Windows still may blue screen. We still may have to do a complete reinstall. But again, that's going to take all of like 5 minutes maybe. And then if it blue screens again, at that point we start sacrificing goats. No, that's not right. We'll figure it out. No big deal. Ooh, that's different. The system has experienced a boot failure, possibly due to incorrect configuration. Previous settings in BIOS may not be compatible with current hardware state. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to press enter, which is the load optimize defaults and reboot. And then we'll see if Windows loads or, oh, well, that's different. What do you know? It's as if I got really lucky. It appeared to know what I was talking about. Fooled you, sucker. Sometimes experience matters. I've eaten enough crow today, so don't mind if I boast a little bit. I don't have frequent wins. So when I do, I want to sort of flaunt it and brag a little bit. We're obviously still having a little issue here with an update. I do know an Intel graphics driver can cause problems like this, especially if the BIOS isn't up to date. Hopefully we're having a little issue with this particular Windows update. And I think, well, there's 2 things we can do. First thing, I'm not comfortable with a repaired operating system. I already said this, so we're just going to shut the whole thing down. And then I'm going to unplug this BIOS flash drive. We're done with that. We're going to plug Windows 10's flash drive back in, unplug the network cable, because when I do the clean install, I don't want Windows to force me to create an online account. Oh, F12, Carey, F12, F12. One more time, folks. One more time. This is unscripted. This is live. This is reality. Every system I work on is different. It's not as though, when you work as an IT tech at a corporation, you're going to be working on all the same computers, or maybe 2 or 3 different models tops, all with the same configuration. And when you're a field technician, you sort of deal with whatever gets thrown your way. Now, with new hardware, you really shouldn't have these difficulties. But the key word in that sentence is shouldn't. There's no guarantee, and at the end of the day, you're supposed to figure it out. You don't necessarily have to know the answer right away. If you never played a game before. In every game, somebody throws your way. You win. I promise nobody wants to play with you. I don't think there's any harm in going through whatever process you need to figure it out. Stay with it, be persistent, don't do the same thing over and over. Try different things, use your imagination, figure it out, do your research, Google it if you need to, ask for help if necessary, get it figured out. From that experience, you will learn. And through numerous experience, you will eventually retain some of it, and you'll start seeing some of the same problems and know immediately what to do from past experience because you suffered along figuring it out. But other people may not know that, and they'll see you resolve this complex, seemingly complex problem in little time with little effort, and they will think you walk on water. It's a wonderful feeling. Little do they know what little suffering you might have had to do to get there, but that's why we do what we do. There's a little sacrifice, a little reward, and ideally through this you're going to learn things you're simply not going to learn in school. You're not going to learn this stuff through certifications until you're elbows deep in a problem with a customer impatiently waiting for you to fix it, or you're online with like 1,000 people watching and they think you're supposed to just know everything and wave a magic wand, and it doesn't work that way. I'm challenged constantly. If I wasn't challenged, I'd lose interest. If a game didn't challenge you, I promise it's not a game you'll want to play. And sometimes it's a little embarrassing, right? I mean, sometimes it's simple stuff I'm overlooking. Sometimes I overthink. Sometimes there's a problem with the hardware that's very hard to identify, but I will fix it. And if it takes me a day, if it takes me a week, if it takes me a month, whatever it takes, it won't take me a month. But I will fix it. And in sharing this real life experience with you, there's a handful of judgmental people that will say it shouldn't take me this long, or I should have did this thing first, or they knew right away what it was. Yet none of those people seemingly have any videos. So it is kind of depressing when people behave that way. And I must be a glutton for punishment because I continually put myself out on a live broadcast and demonstrate reality. Again, there's no sort of clock running to how long this should take you. And please don't think that because you can presumably do it faster, that that's the acceptable measure by which we all are compared. I will run into problems and I will figure them out. And generally, my customers don't really care. They just want it fixed. They want it fixed as quickly as possible. They want it fixed right the first time, and they don't want to spend a bundle of money to get there. Oops, I meant to say no. All right, anyway, we're back into Windows again, and then we're going to go back to Windows Update, and ideally, we're not going to have any install issues. You notice I always opt for the clean install. I'm not wanting to do any form of repair. That is not the way to deliver a brand new system to your customer. That is not good. And ultimately, it's probably going to harm you the most because it's probably going to have some problems. And you're going to get called, and the customer is obviously going to expect you to fix those problems for free. They've already paid you. You should have done the job right the first time. So if Windows isn't installing without errors, you've got a problem to fix. How do you know if you fixed it? Reinstall Windows. Don't try to repair it. That's my advice. Take it or leave it. I get paid the same. So while this is finishing the Windows 10 install, I can remove the Windows 10 installation flash drive right now. We don't need it after the first boot. It's no longer necessary. And then we're going to, as soon as this comes back up, we're going to go back to Windows Update. There is a lot of repetition in PC work. Or there can be, I should say. Well, especially if you work at a corporation where everything's always the same. But that makes you more efficient. Well, I probably have to plug it into the network first. See, it's simple things. Once I get to a certain point in a build, I start rushing. Let me plug the Ethernet cable back in. Give the system a moment to have an IP address assigned. You'll know when that happens, when the window on the right, it comes out from the right. I'm going to click no on it. Okay, now let's go and try getting on the internet. Probably will work better. We'll leave that run this time. So if it should crash, we'll see which updates crash again. Michael Dane called me on it. You got to plug in the network, Carey. I've been doing this for just over 3 hours. I have not eaten. I have not taken a bathroom break. And like anything else, you know, start getting sloppy. But I'm persistent, and I don't want to stop until I have the results of this cooler. We got 1,047 people watching live. Welcome in, everybody. If you want to give me a shout out, let me know where you're watching from. I always enjoy seeing what parts of the world people are watching me in. Lyle, why are you squeaking? You need oil? Ghost Shadow says, I bet Carey takes half as long or less when the camera is not on. You'll never know. What is your deal? What's wrong? Do you need Windows 10 reinstalled? Why are you squeaking? What's your deal? It's hot. I think he's hot. He's walking around with a big old fur coat on. Well, whose idea was that? Oh, look at where everybody's watching from here. Alabama, Boynton Beach, Florida, New Hampshire, Parkersburg, West Virginia. David Rico says, waving the hand from High Desert, California. Kenny joins us from Louisiana. Stephen Bernstein from Southwest Florida. Southmode from St. Augustine, Florida. Jack Back is in Ohio. Gary Chase in Connecticut. Phil the Gamer joins us from California. Maddie is in Sydney, South Wales. North-South? It can't be right, is it? Bridgeport, Ohio, and Australia, more from Australia. Brooklyn, New York. Dublin, Ireland. Gabriel Granados joins us from Costa Rica. Orlando Breve is in Brooklyn. John Paul Bacon is in Federal Way, Washington. Viewers in Hawthorne, California. That's the home of Tesla, isn't it? Isn't that where Tesla is at? Yates Network says, I'm tired too. Man, I was tired when I woke up. Peter Griffiths joins us from Warrington, Cheshire in the UK. Ted Rowland is in Michigan. Trini Mike is in Southern California. Eric Patterson joins us all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. Holy smokes, can you imagine? New South Wales, not North South Wales. That makes a lot more sense. I heard a gentleman say he was from Brizzy. Brizzy is Brisbane, Australia. So I was looking for somebody to be from Brisbane so I could sound clever and say, hey, we got a viewer from Brizzy. How does he know that term? Ken joins us from Charleston, Illinois. I scroll up a little bit, see who I've missed here. Missed a bunch of you. Paul joins us from Barberton, Ohio. Matthew's in Gallatin, Tennessee. Bevo's in Superior, Wisconsin. Wayne joins us from Oregon City, Oregon. Nick Poverman's in Belmar, New Jersey, half a mile from the beach. Sharon Idle's in the UK. Joseph Hawkins is in New Zealand. Skeeman is in Maryland. William Dawson's in Cocoa, Florida. Chris Keegan joins us from Pittsburgh, and Paul Wright's in Winchester, Kentucky, and John Young is in Salina, Kansas. Chevy Arthur joins us from Georgia, and Hugh Wong, he says California, but aren't you normally in Canada, Hugh? I'm a little confused. You on vacation? Did you move? All right, no blue screen so far. Let's see what happens. Back over to the chat. Johnny Jackwind has contributed 5 New Zealand dollars. He says, I'm from here. No, you're from there. Susan Harris says she lives next to Goat Island, Niagara Falls. Never heard of it. Waddell says Hawthorne is the home of SpaceX. I was close. It's Elon Musk. I don't know. Ed joins us from Roscoe, Illinois. Doman 2000 joins us from Holland. Very nice. A name I have no idea how to pronounce is hello from Brazil, originally from Japan. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to try and pronounce your name. Is that right? Gail joins us from Tucson, Arizona. Carlos Hernandez is in Moreno Valley, California. Troll McTrollington joins us from Ontario, Canada. Essential Working Too Hard is in Fairfield, Connecticut. Ray Dickey's in New York. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for giving a shout out of where you're from. All right, we're back to our Windows desktop here. So I'm going to go back to the updates again. We repeat this process on a new install until it says there's no more updates. And the reason that happens is because sometimes there's updates to updates, depending on how long it's been since you've updated. So we'll just hit retry here and let it scan again and let it apply any additional updates. This should be the last time we have to do it. And we'll try this cooler out. We'll stretch its legs a little bit here, see what it can or cannot do. See how loud it gets, see how well it cools, and I think that will wrap it up. I'll follow up with installing either a different cooler or I'll stick with this one. I haven't made up my mind. We'll see the results of the test. We can throw the, oh, you know what? I need to test Mike's graphics card out. Well, it's not Mike's anymore, it's mine again. We're going to do that before I wrap up today. One more try. It says there's no more updates. It's probably telling us the truth, but I just want to check one more time. Yeah, we're good. We're all updated. Everybody is happy. Now, because this is an Intel system, there's no chipset drivers I've got to install, or newer ones, I should say, like you should do, in my opinion, with AMD. Oh, you just can't let that go. It really bothers me. You don't say. And I've got the utilities flash drive plugged in, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy over the Prime 95 and the temperature monitoring program off my flash drive. And that is right there. And we'll go to PC testing software. We want to have HW monitor. You can Google this to get it. It's free. And Prime 95 version 26.6. I like to use that because I don't have to change the default settings. Newer versions of Prime 95, they overwork the CPU. It's not a fair test. So I'm going to, I mean, you can change the default settings, but if I run 26.6, I can leave the default settings alone. So it's taking a minute to read the temperatures right now off the CPU. Remember, we're all on default settings on the BIOS. I've not changed anything. If you're following along, those temperatures are very, very chilly. That's really, well, maybe not so much. 42 would be kind of normal. Sitting around 29 or 30, that's very impressive. This is the current temperature here on the left. In the middle is the lowest temperature that the software has monitored while the software has been running. And to the right is the highest temperature. So I'm going to start Prime 95, and we're going to work the CPU at 100% on all of its cores, and you're going to watch those temperatures shoot up. Watch these temperatures here on the left. They're going to go up pretty rapidly. CPUs get hot fast. That's why cooling is so important. If we hit 85 degrees centigrade within 15 minutes, then this cooler is inadequate for my requirements. I have minimal requirements before I would sell a system to a customer. Now, the test hasn't been going a minute, and we've already hit 72 degrees. That's not a good indication. However, it was awfully chilly. So let's give it a fair shake. And if this exceeds 85 degrees Celsius, I will stop the test. The CPU will start to throttle at around 100 degrees Celsius. And the reason I run this test is because I want to ensure that the CPU will be able to endure anything my customer throws at it. And despite the fact that this CPU is not going to a customer, it doesn't change the requirement. I wouldn't use it myself. So if this CPU can endure 15 minutes of 100% all-core usage without exceeding 85 degrees centigrade, I'm very confident no matter what the customer does, it's never going to stress the CPU. It's sort of like putting your foot all the way to the floor and as fast as the car can go, and doing that for a full 15 minutes without letting off the gas, without hitting the brakes, without, when is anybody going to be able to drive like that? So if the car can endure that and not overheat, then however the person drives it, it's going to be fine. Now, we're running, you can hear that fan ramping up. At this point, that fan is a bit louder than a scythe or a be quiet fan. I can tell you that. It's cranking up. However, it's still adequately cooling, but we're only 2 minutes into the test. Now, by comparison, the previous cooler at this point had already exceeded 85 degrees centigrade on the same system, everything being the same. Well, except I guess the BIOS is newer. So we've already hit a maximum of 87 just for a moment. So I'm going to ignore it for now. That's kind of weird that it just momentarily jumped on core number 5 to 87 because it's primarily staying around 80. I got a feeling this cooler ain't going to cut it. I don't think we're going to last too much longer. We're less than 3 minutes in. And I'm seeing right now, again, looking at the current values on the left, we're hitting 80 degrees on core 2, 79 on core 4. And then, of course, there's the package temperature, which is at the very top. I don't think this cooler's going to cut it. We're 3 minutes in. I don't think it's going to go another 12 minutes. Now, this isn't going to harm the CPU. If the CPU starts to throttle at 100 degrees, it's doing so to protect itself. But it's going to slow down, and that means the cooler's inadequate. And Look how pretty it is, though. You got to have your priorities. Core 5 is still maintaining the record temp. It only hit that for a moment, and it's not even come close. 82. Core 2 seems to be running the hottest. Core 5 randomly jumps. Like Core 5 went to 89 for a moment. I can tell you right now, the fan's too loud. We're just now crossing into 4 minutes, and we've already hit 85 on Core 0. So, and again, 89 temporarily on Core 5. Once again, not causing any harm to the system. 89 also on Core 2. These temperatures are unacceptable, and I cannot recommend this cooler. I'm going to let it run just, let's go 5 minutes. We're 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. We'll do 1/3 of the test. I want to see how many other of the cores have exceeded 85. So Core 0 actually hit 85, which is the limit that I set in place. 87 on the package, 89 on Core 2, 89 on Core 5. Unacceptable. So I'm going to move this over here because I want you to watch. Yeah, that's what I said. Watch this area right here. Because as soon as I stop this test, I hit stop and I confirm. As soon as I hit OK, watch how fast the temperatures on the CPU drop. And listen to the fan. So if you never stress the CPU, if you never really work the desktop, if you don't work the computer, if all you're doing is checking email, using Word, Excel, browsing the web, you're never going to push it that hard. I guess the CPU cooler will do fine. But if you actually there's an issue here, and that is, why did you buy a 9900K if all you needed was a Core i5, right? Because if you're just browsing the web and opening Word and Excel, the Core i5 is going to do fine. You won't probably notice any difference whatsoever. I can tell you for certain the SE-234-ARGB is not up to the job of cooling a 9900K, even though the box says that it exceeds the TDP of what the CPU does, which is, clearly doesn't. So let's do this. Let's shut this down. When this shuts down, look, we're 7 minutes into the test today. We didn't even make it halfway. This does not bode well for the CPU manufacturer. Let's go full screen on that, please. Okay, so as I mentioned, the cooler's inadequate, but it's good enough for now for me to continue what I need to know, which is to verify if this graphics card that I put in Mike Smith's system on the Beast 2 build I did, was that last month now? I'll tell you why I'm confused about this. When shipping a computer, there's a concern if you have a big heavy graphics card, that it'll break free, it'll damage. But this didn't happen. There's no moving parts except for these fans, and there's no problem here. So it doesn't make any sense why a tested machine here on my bench gets shipped to Florida from Arizona, a couple thousand miles, and then the video doesn't work unless some connection broke free. For example, if the card became dislocated in the slot, it's not seated properly, if the RAM for some reason wasn't seated properly, that's obviously can happen through the handling process of shipping. But there's nothing broken on the card. There's no moving parts. It's not fragile. Why didn't it work? Is Mike using some old monitors or old cables? Is that the problem? We're going to find out right now. So make sure before you unplug or plug in any graphics card, you cut the power. Because even though the system is off, there's still going to be power flowing through the motherboard. To install the card, I'm going to have to remove 2 of the PCI slot covers. And I'm going to grab my electric driver here, and we'll do that very quickly. And we're about to find out what the heck is going on. If the card is fine, I'll reuse it in another build. If the card is not fine, I can see firsthand what the problem is. Open an RMA at Gigabyte's website and get it packed up and returned to them. And then again, test the card when it comes back, reuse it in another build. All of this stuff keeps pulling me backwards. You know, a job that was done now is, look, it's, as far as Mike Smith is concerned, it's fixed, but my job's not done yet, nor is the paperwork done. Now this graphics card, you'll notice, has no power connector. See that? No power connector is required. The only reason Mike wanted the card is he needs to hook up 3 monitors, and on the back of the motherboard, he could only hook up 2. So we just wanted to put a low-end graphics card in there, comparatively speaking, low-end, which is way overkill for his needs. So this isn't a card that we have to put power to, which makes the install a little easier. We're going to plug that in there, and we're going to move the HDMI port down to here. And now I'm not going to secure this card in place. Right? It's not going to stay in here. All I need to know right now is this machine going to give me no video? Mike knew the machine was booting. He had speakers plugged in. He can hear the sounds within Windows. And he could see the hard drive light blinking. He was getting no video. And when he removed the graphics card, got the right cable to plug directly into the motherboard, it worked. So he said, well, I've got a bad graphics card. I don't care what Carey says. And he went and got a new graphics card, plugged it in, removed the old card. Everything worked like it was supposed to. That doesn't mean there's a cable problem. It just means either he had a bad card, he's right, in which case, how did that happen? How did it work for me and not work for him? What did FedEx do to it? How was that even possible, regardless? Or 2, even though he bought new cables, he bought, perhaps this particular card is a little bit more sensitive over what cables are being used. All I know is it worked using this exact cable in this exact configuration when I shipped it. That's all I know. Everything else is out of my hands. Mike is 2,000 miles away. I can't look over his shoulder, and I just need him up and running, and I'll deal with the aftermath, right? So he's fine. He's running. He's happy. He's good. Now I've got the aftermath. Okay. So let's let's switch back over to camera 2, and let's see if we replicate the issue. I can turn power supply back on, hit the button. Remember, we're now plugged in on the graphics card. And it is exactly the way Mike described. So something happened to this graphics card in shipping, and I feel bad, right? Because I'm like, that doesn't seem likely. Mike's like, yeah, but it's not working. I'm like, yeah, but it's brand new. What could they have done? Well, they did something. So obviously, look, there's not much I can do from 2,000 miles away. And typically, I like to always aim for the simple solution first. Let's get that out of the way. And it was a little frustrating because I got a little resistance initially from Mike about that. He's like, it can't be that. It can't be that. And I don't, look, I'm not there. I'm not looking at it, right? So I'm like, well, humor me. Do it anyway. Well, apparently he did, although he didn't tell me that till long after the fact. I was a little frustrated. So there's a problem. And it gets more interesting the longer the card stays on. Are the fans turning? One fan is turning. Or are they both? I can't see. No, they're both going. Isn't that interesting? All right. Well, I've preemptively apologized to Mike under the assumption that he is correct, and for no other reason than the fact he had to go through that. When I build a computer, it should plug in and work every single time. I do all the testing I can possibly do. I make sure it is packed properly and there was no damage to the box and there was, nothing, no reason to conclude that this is even possible. But yet, there it is. So something happened. Something happened to this card. And I find that absolutely fascinating. There's nothing loose. It doesn't wiggle. If a customer jams something in the ports and it shorts out a port, it can cause that problem. But Mike is smarter than that, and he wouldn't do that. I'm speechless. This is why we have warranties. This will be covered under warranty. I will have to pay for the shipping back to Gigabyte. Gigabyte will send me a refurbished unit. Some people scoff, like, oh, I sent you a new unit, you sent me a used one. No, they sent you a thoroughly tested one, because if they sent you a new one, maybe the new one's got the same problem, right? So they took the card, they ran it through a series of tests that are above and beyond the normal quality control so that they know that what they're sending you works. Your warranty remains the same regardless. What do you care? How old do you think the graphics card is they're sending you? You think they soldered things at the bottom to fix? They didn't. All they did is they took another card that may have been associated for any reason with returns, and they did an extra quality control check on it, which makes it no longer new, even if it was new. They tell you it's refurbed, but it's thoroughly tested. That's what refurbed generally means in computer land. It's thoroughly tested. Sometimes they say repaired. Nobody's repairing these. There's no money in it. It would cost you more to repair it. Doesn't make any sense. So I don't know, but Mike got a graphics card that has the outputs he needs anyway. When I get this card back, I'm always selling computers. It's not like I want to be like, oh no, what do I do with this? It'll go in a build, and it'll have the same warranty. Whatever it had will still be whatever the date on the receipt is. And another day in business. But you can see that if you don't charge enough money on your labor when you build the machines, now something like this not only eats into more labor time you could be using to generate more revenue, because I'm not generating revenue going backwards, and then I've got to pay for shipping. It's a few bucks, 20 bucks. But regardless, when your margins are razor thin, 20 bucks can be a significant portion of your profit. If you're vying on price, right? If you're competing on price, you have to sacrifice something. If the customer wants the lowest price, you can't give them this kind of service. You go out of business. It's not my fault this happened. I didn't do anything. FedEx packed it and shipped it. No damage to the box. You saw the system live on YouTube being tested. You saw it run Time Spy. Something happened. So we can spend the next 5 hours trying to figure out what it is, which adds up to more loss, or we diagnose it very quickly, verify the problem, get the RMA filled out online. You can do that 24/7. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I can be doing that. Put it back in the anti-static bag, get it shipped off. When it comes back, it's like a brand new card. But at least I know Mike was correct in his diagnosis. He did a great job. Uh, Again, he's happy now. Everything's working. And I have no idea how or why that happened. And I don't think it would benefit me to have the answers unless this happens on a regular basis. What good is it to know what it was? How does that benefit me? If it continues, if I have another system do the same thing, or if it's another gigabyte video card, guess what? I'm going to stop buying gigabyte video cards. You normally see me buy EVGA cards. And it's not necessarily because EVGA cards are better, it's because I know the service is good. If I have a problem, because the service is good, it's rare to have a problem. Gigabyte's a little bit slow on their service. However, follow the process. It takes a couple days longer. You save a few bucks because it's Gigabyte, not EVGA. Anyway, a couple more contributions. What have I missed here? Hugh Wong has contributed $2. He says, I'm almost out of stimulus money. Family's OKDW. Right, I'm glad to hear everybody's okay. Bill Warner has contributed $1.99. He says, hello from Houston, Texas. Peanut Butterflies contributed $5. He says, I found your music playlist. You have good taste. Your music you're listening to now has a 3-hour build video near the end. Oh, thanks for, I'll fix it. Thank you. Hugh Wong again says CA is Canada and California. I'm in California. Yeah, but the money you were submitting had Canadian dollars. And you said you were in Vancouver. I'm confused. Weren't you in Canada? Thomas Robinson's contributed £1.99. Paul O'Brien again for another contribution of €2. This time he says a bonus for a good night's stream. Right on. Thanks, guys, for sticking with me. Long stream yesterday, 4 hours, 3.5 hours today. But the difference is I got some work done. So, I got that going for me. I now know this cooler looks good, just like the other one, and it performs like crap, just like the other one. I know the video card is in fact bad and is under warranty. It's two things I didn't know when I started 3.5 hours ago. Totally worth it. I will take this cooler off. I'm going to stop messing about. I think I'll put the Noctua on there. You don't see me install Noctua fans. I think they're overpriced. Everything about this system behind me is overpriced. So let's just stick with that theme. The overpriced build. That's what we'll call it. Once it's up and running and tested, I'll decide if I want to sell it or if I'm going to hold on to it. I don't know. We'll see how it performs. We'll see what the noise levels are. I got a feeling that 2080 Ti is going to add significantly to the noise level. Because I'm using this in production, if it's quiet, I'll use it as a new streamer because this streamer is upsetting me. My AMD 3900X is really upsetting me. I'm ready to go back to Intel on that. Blackwatch says Vancouver is British Columbia, Canada. Is there a difference between Canada and British Columbia, Canada? All I know is it's just the top part of North America. Isn't that all Canada? Last I checked, it says Canada on the map. I've never really understood the difference, but I don't live there. Peanut Butterfly says put an HD 15 in there. What, and cover up my RAM? Are you nuts? No. I want to I want to be able to see all my RAM. So the cooler can't exceed this point, and I don't want to go with a liquid cooler. I want to go with an air cooler, and the Nanoxua cooler I've got is just like this. It's black. It's about the same size. You'll see. You'll see. It'll be coming up soon. Jet Pilot has contributed $4.99. Troll McTrollington with $4.75. Canadian. Troll McTrollington says, here's some Canadian pesos for the win. And Jet Pilot says, thanks for the content, Carey. Well, thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining me today. And one more shout out to everybody who has contributed during today's live stream, and that's Jet Pilot, Troll McTrollington, Paul O'Brien with numerous contributions, Hugh Wong with numerous contributions, Thomas Robinson, Peanut Butterfly, Johnny Jacquin, Bill Warner, Arvid Baleras, Rochester NY87 had a couple of contributions in there. Thanks, David. Stephen Burt contributed $20 and said, I'm enjoying the show. I don't know if I caught that earlier. Thank you, Stephen. Ani contributed, as well as Nunman 1962 with that $35 contribution. Two Blue, Two True, and Madi Yoel, thank you as always, Madi, and David Starbuck, thank you. Essential Working Too Hard. Glenn's Music also had a couple of contributions today. Zdravko Francevic, as well as Chris Kingen and George Z, David Griswold and David Seymour, Michael Dane, of obviously, thank you, Michael, John Peck, Sterling, Frankie B with that $100 contribution kicked us off right away with $100. That was very generous. And appreciate you guys helping to keep me from being a corporate mouthpiece, enabling me to sort of be the weirdo I am and do things that I can do unfiltered. And I appreciate that you see value in it. And I couldn't be making as much content as often just off YouTube revenue. And it's the folks like you who support the channel, whether that's through contributions, whether it's through sharing links on social media, using the Amazon links when you shop at Amazon to kick back a small commission. All together, it's all adding up, and it's making this thing have some momentum, and it's enabling me to have a little bit more freedom with some crazy over-the-top builds and some nonsense stuff like this that's taking me away from customer builds, which are very serious, into things that are a little bit more fun and experimental just because I can. But I don't want to do that all the time, because that's what all the hobbyist YouTube tech channels do. They just build for fun. I also want to instill the importance of accountability, responsibility, and liability when you're building for somebody else, if you want to consider doing this as a day job, right? If you're not already doing it, and understand the difference, right? Between what you do for you is one thing, and what you do for somebody else, there's a whole liability there. And if you want to sustain a business, I'm not talking about necessarily helping a friend, although it can ruin a friendship if you screw it up and you don't see it through. You won't be able to pay your bills and sustain a business if you just go, hey, it's your problem now. I mean, that's why they hired you, so they didn't have any problems. And if it costs you money to make it right, well, that's your incentive to make it right the first time in the future, and hope you didn't just lose that customer for life. Because if you got to pay for advertising, your expenses just went up. And it makes it harder to sustain the business. You got to keep those expenses down. You got to get things right as often as you can the first time for a good customer experience, and to keep you moving and helping more customers and generating more revenue. And then there's the fun builds, and those are just, who cares, right? You have a good time, you enjoy it, and then if somebody wants to buy it, if you want to sell it, whatever, right? But it's not building to a spec. In any event, just a contribution just came in under the wire here. One more final shout out, and that is to, well, I guess not. I saw something out of the corner of my eye. So again, to all my friends in blue, thank you guys so much for being kind, supportive, joining me here and participating in the chat. To all the viewers watching, thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll come back and see me again. We'll see what adventures await. Until tomorrow, I think I'll be live tomorrow. I will see you all again. I have to find an outro. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.